All right, I believe that I am live. Guys, do me a favor as you guys come down into the building. Leave me a 1 so I know that you guys can hear and see me correctly as you guys come in. Let me go post to the IG so people know that I am live. Here we go. Here we go. Live on the channel right now. Go up to the YouTube channel right now. All right. We're doing the Destiny, Fresh and Fit, Sneako, Rollo, Tomassi, that old debate that happened last night, round 2. Let's get active. Let's get in there. Go up to the YouTube channel. Boom. Right now. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Now that's posted on the IG. Guys, I know we're going live at an incredibly difficult and weird time, middle of the day, but I think that it's appropriate. Shout out to everybody that's coming down into the building. Guys, do me a favor, leave a 1 if you guys can hear and or see me correctly. We'll wholeheartedly appreciate if you guys can give some 1s down into the chat. I don't know if this is working, but hopefully it is. All right, I just posted the IG. What else I got to do? Oh, yeah, let me just do this on my phone real quick. Yup. All right, I see 1s down into the building. I see 1s down into the chat. Let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb so I can show you guys the utmost respect. We back live, baby. We back live, baby. Listen, let's get active. Let's get in there. Should I do the official intro? Yeah, let's do the old school intro. What up, YouTube? I am your host, mediocre tutorials and reviews, back in here with one more video. Oh, this is gonna be a goddamn video. Let me tell y'all. Now listen, first and foremost, before we get started within this conversation, y'all already know what this conversation is gonna be about because you clicked on the video, saw the thumbnail, saw the title of the video. Wanted to go over round 2 of the Rollo, Tomassi, Sneako, Destiny debate and conversation. If you guys remember, a couple of days ago, Sneako and Destiny sort of teamed up when Rollo Tomassi came in. Now their contention was on Rollo Tomassi's tweet, and number 3 of that tweet was something crazy. It was about getting vasectomies. Rollo Tomassi said that wasn't advice. It was just something to get a conversation started. It confused a lot of the audience. A lot of the audience thought that he took a major L. Come to find out, there was a round 2 conversation and discussion that went on for like 4 hours. Let me also say this before we get fully into the conversation as well. Shout out to Fresh and Fit. shout out to Fresh and Fit. You've seen a meteoric rise of Fresh and Fit. Through beef, you saw a decline, and then you start to see them rise again. You've seen many different transitions of the type of people that they bring through. You saw them try to get into mainstream media. They went from red pill content creators to try to go into mainstream media. Now they're kind of situated within their own space, their own podcast space, and they're very successful. One of the major critiques that Fresh and Fit has always gotten, outside of always, inviting hoes, and I would say that they've switched a lot of that, and there seems to be a lot more educated women that come through. So their brand perception is still that. Like, most people who don't watch them still think all of that. But one of the other major critiques is that this is just a woman-bashing platform, right? Now, right, wrong, or indifferent, they migrated from so much as the Frank Castling to now they do it less often. But what they get critiqued for is this is a place to bring on young women who just left the home. They just left their mama's titty. And y'all bring them up here and y'all just trump them. Y'all just outdo them in logic. Okay? This is the first time that I've seen and been introduced to their platform that they're having a debate with all male content creators. Okay? And what have I said previously? I said when they've invited Destiny on previously, because his views are so different, and he's old enough, I believe he's in his 30s, he's old enough to have lived a component of life long enough, and also he's a fantastic debater, to give them some pushback in a really respectable and well-mannered way, unless he wants to get petty. But shout out to them, because I think that the availability to be able to do that, because what I've said before is that being able to put your thoughts, feelings, ideologies up into the air in a critical thinking way and then have the audience decide and you can debate those ideas. Hey, listen, they did it. They did it. So round 2 is up. All right, now everybody is coming down into the building. Now, this stream right here is 4 hours long. So I don't know how much of this I'm going to be able to get through, but we want to attempt to get through it. Usually I stall here in the beginning by a lot, but I think I'm just going to get into it. Here's something I can stall with real quick as you guys coming in. And as you guys coming in as well, because it is so long, go get your popcorn, go get your snacks, go get your hors d'oeuvres, all right? Go get your red cups and go get ready. Go get primed and ready. Let's go in on this. And I'm going to try to give you guys as best of a commentary as what I can of kind of what's happening, maybe what is triggering this conversation, the specific things that they're talking about, and then also my own thoughts regarding the things that are going on. Now, we've seen Rollo previously lose his cool, and I tell you guys ad nauseum that especially in situations like that, you never want to lose your cool. At the point that you lose your cool, you often lose your argument. Your emotions start to dip down into these negative female toxic traits of innuendo, bashing, name calling, hitting below the belt, like all of this bullshit, and you can't stick to the topic because, again, your emotions get involved. We saw that happen with Rollo, and being the godfather of the red pill, seeing him demonstrate himself like that was a blow to his credibility. So he needs to come up to this conversation and he needs to show and prove. Okay, when I say needs, it's really from an audience growth perspective. His longtime supporters are not going to care about him coming up on and being emotional and getting sunned by both Destiny and Sneako at the same damn time. Okay, also MTArmy.com. What's up? Your boy got a website now. Look at that. You can come up there, book a consultation. All right, talk to the MT Army via my public Discord server. You guys can join if you want to, or join the newsletter. You'll get access to things that are going on from a community perspective. We got links to the Modern Man's Playbook, and then also a merch shelf as well. I wanted the website to be extremely simple, just a place for the community to understand kind of what's going on, just in case that YouTube stops sending you guys goddamn notifications, which I know that they have. So, MTArmy.com, link to it down in the description box down below. All right, join the community, especially the Discord server, all right? All right, guys, do me a favor again, leave a like on the video as you guys come down into the building. I think to start out with, I'm not gonna show the chat right now. I think I'm just gonna show this. All right. All right, guys, so buckle up. Let's get it popping. Without further ado.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Fresh.
Oh, shit, it's on like 2x or some shit. Hold on. I watch like most of my things on 2x.
Podcast, man. A long anticipated debate between Rollo, Tomassi, Marco Sartain, Sneako, and Destiny. Let's get into it.
Let's go!
Rumble.com/fresh.
Going to be a huge demographic. It is panicking right now because Rumble's looking really good. Kai and Speed, two of the biggest Gen Z streamers, are going to be a huge demographic coming over.
Thanks.
Join Rumble before it's too late because things are really about to really start to switch up.
Facts.
All right.
Shout out to Rumble,
Good
man.
stuff. Rollo, let's start Rumble. Let's get on Rumble.
Yeah,
I'm already on Rumble. I'm already on Rumble.
Let's
it's a
do
new
it.
wave, man. Freshbit.locals.com, guys. Go check us out over there as well. Also, we're on Megaphone. So if you guys want to listen to the podcast audio version, make sure to wear headphones
What's
so you don't get fired
Megaphone?
at your job.
Never heard of
Get
that.
the merch, freshbitpodcaststore.com. I got my Chris the Bum shirt on, my favorite one, because Chris definitely is a bum and he doesn't even know how to do the cameras correctly. Elf, Chris, once again, bro. You know what's funny? He's the one that set the cameras up.
Hey,
oh my God, man.
New angles, man. New players.
Stupid. Come on, man.
Hey, we're doing live.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's the excuse to use every time. And then also, guys, get freshbitpodcaststore.com. Definitely go get a Chris the Bum shirt after that one.
Yeah.
And then also check out our Clips channel, guys, Fresh Fit Clips. And then also check out our other.
Guys, join the network, man.
Go ahead and check it out. The last episode I did was, God damn it. My memory really
Mafia?
sucks. Golden State. Yeah, Golden State Killer. Thank you, bro.
There you go.
I did the Golden State Killer yesterday. He went on the run for like 30, 40 years. It took forever for them to catch him, but they finally did through DNA. So if you guys want to go check that out, go check it out, Fed Reacts. And then I'm going to be dropping Al Capone and the Outfit on Thursday this week. And yeah, and then I won't be in town, guys. So you guys are actually going to get a special show with these guys without me here on Friday.
Rollo, Sartine, and myself.
Yes,
running the show.
And then,
Fresh. Running the show.
And Sneako might come with somebody too. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? We might have something for y'all. But anything else? Oh yeah, get my book, guys. Why Women Deserve Less. And I'll go ahead and read the chats. And then also all the guys. All their links are below, guys. Go support them down below. I got their Rumbles, their YouTubes, etc. Destiny, Sneako, Rollo, Tomassi, and Michael Sartain. So I'll read these chats real quick. From this point forward, guys, we're not going to read anything outside of $100 and up because obviously we want to make sure that we have the debate going nice and smoothly. Just so you guys know, me and Fresh are not going to participate. We're just going to simply moderate. I got a couple topics here at hand, but let me read these and I'll give you guys the ground rules. Jordan 14 goes, Sneako too focused on a vasectomy last time. The point is not to have kids when you're broke and haven't built yourself up yet and can't provide. Not every man is young and successful like you are. Well, sir, you will be armchair debating somewhere else because don't worry. Colin Stevens goes, you should ask the resident blue-haired cuck if he still supports the position on ethical.
Okay. So let's get past these super chats.
Maybe they're that kind of person.
Yeah, let's use grammar with some
present in their son's life, particularly and others. He believes a woman. No, whatever, man. Y'all asking me
this is about them, guys, not us.
There. Come on, man.
Yeah, man.
Derek Stacy, $20. Have y'all looked into the Israel
Adesanya?
Come
Is that a
on.
solution? Better advice would be to make a bunch of money and leave the U.S. Okay. Samuel L. Goes, Lyra Gonzalo has been arrested again. Okay, I don't know what that means.
I don't think that's what the N is for. I don't think that's what.
Sneako Phil Alpha getting the French girl's number who he won't wife yet lectures F&F that high value men should want more than just sex. Is your Pat's hypocrisy padded with sermon? Never since he.
He's cool.
So did anyone ever say that or just like I'm a lead?
Well, you guys just like tell me if Sneako will be on Rollo's side.
He's up before, but it's fine now.
Okay, how many? Okay. I wonder if Sneako will be on Rollo's side today, considering how he changes his mind every week. What if?
Damn, tell me exactly what I changed my mind on. So did anyone ever say that, or just like I'm a leaf blowing in the wind?
Dog, let me also say this as well. This is, a lot of this particular story between Destiny, Sneako, and Rollo is supplanted with this idea of Sneako being a heel turn face of the company, right? A bad guy turned good, right? So the thing is like when I think about this debate. The first time that they talked, they really didn't have an opportunity to pressure test their ideologies and think through those, right? Debate through those, right? It went to a lot of like undercutting, it went to a lot of low blows. So the thing is that what this debate will also show is if Sneako's face turn is real. You see what I'm saying? Right? Because I never seen Sneako's like old videos, but apparently he was a very cognizant young man. Apparently he understood many things about the world. He was able to really assess himself and really be vulnerable and let his feelings, thoughts, ideas, emotions come out there. And then he went down this red pill rage route. And then now in turning into Islam, or becoming a Muslim now, he's completely shifted and changed. So is that for the grift? We can figure out in a debate style conversation or discussion. You understand what I'm saying? Shout out to Super Chats that's coming in $5. This debate is going to be like a match between Yugi and Joey from the Paradox Brothers. Let's keep going.
You guys already gone.
Just ignore them, bro. I'm just reading through these.
Well, you guys kind of agreed with that point of view, but it's okay. It's okay.
Where we at here?
20 now. Fresh now, it's cool.
And mind you, what he also said is that what has people ever disagreed with me on? A couple of months ago, I want to say like 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, he was talking about Bugattis. Like with Andrew Tate, he's talking about what I would want to do in the future. Fuck family, fuck kid. Like he was talking about all these different things. I just want to just be a playboy. Fuck slowing down. I don't want to have a family. That has significantly changed from his ideologies now. So I don't know why he's trying to act like like shit has not changed. Everyone is saying it's a heel turn face. So obviously things had changed. I think he's being a bit disingenuous and facetious within that.
It's cool.
Thank God. Cool. No, we're going 100 up from.
No, but it's over.
Oh, these came from before?
Yeah,
bro. Okay. Thank God Fresh ain't talking. Sorry, homie. And why Sneako looking extra Asian all of a sudden? Okay.
No, you looking extra black always.
All right, Mark, go ahead.
This is true.
Talking.
Okay. So quick little. So here's a summary of what's going to go on, guys. As you guys know, they have some disagreements on some things. We're going to go ahead and moderate the debate. Me and Fresh will not be jumping in. We are simply going to be here to moderate. We're going to cover 4 main topics. The vasectomy tweet, dual mating strategy, divorce, and promiscuity. But to kick it off, we're going to go ahead and define certain terms. High value man, alpha male, hypergamy. Do you guys want to introduce yourself to the people real quick?
Yeah, real quick.
I think probably everybody knows who I am. Rollo Tomassi, I'm the author of the 5 books that are the Rational Male series of books.
I'm Michael Sartain. I'm a former U.S. military officer. I flew 5 years special ops, 2 years counterintelligence, and now I have a performance coaching program, and then I host a podcast with him where we discuss evolutionary psychology.
Access Vegas.
Cool. I have no idea who that last guy was, and I'm curious why he was invited into this. I thought there was going to be a conversation of Sneako, Destiny, and Rollo. Maybe they thought it'd be better for content if it was 2v2.
Destiny.
I'm Steve Bunnell. I host politics, YouTube, philosophy YouTube, and video games on YouTube, youtube.com/Destiny. I've been doing this for about 13 years.
All right.
Sneako, canceled streamer on Rumble, and certified douche nozzle.
There you go.
That is correct. Certified.
Fantastic. So guys, all the chats are going to be shown on screen. However, we're only going to read the ones that are 100 and up, just so that we can make sure that we get through this debate.
Hold on.
First,
I know
we're going
why
to
that's
start with
happening.
defining what a high value
let's
man
go.
is, alpha male, and hypergamy. And then we're going to come to basically an agreed upon definition for the table, so that way nothing is lost in translation during the course of the conversation. We already got 20,000 y'all in here, so do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and then subscribe to everyone's
20,000
channel here.
They had
Sneako on Rumble, Destiny on
20,000
YouTube,
people.
Texas,
Rollo
Vegas.
on YouTube,
Right at the beginning.
and Michael Sartain on YouTube.
That's
as well.
crazy.
Your links are below. And then,
Pretty much
so
it.
we'll go ahead and who wants to kick it off with defining high value man?
Before we define things, I
Please.
wrote like 6 things down so we can all agree on things. So we have like a common base going
Okay,
forward,
go
okay?
ahead.
Okay.
Okay. So I wrote 6 rules that I hope we can all kind of adhere to for this conversation.
Yes.
So for the first one, all of us here are trying to approach some notion of what is true in terms of what we're
Yes.
analyzing. We're not
Yeah.
here to make fun of each other, scream at each other, be emotional, whatever, but we're trying to figure out what the most true shit is, essentially, right? Number
Okay.
1. Number 2, I personally think we should move through arguments point by point rather than like diatribing for 5 or 10 minutes so
Yes.
that the other time, because you don't want to start off a point where somebody already disagrees and then talk for another 5 or 10 minutes. And so if I'm saying something or Sneako's saying something or you guys saying something, if you disagree,
That's
just
good.
like, hey, let's talk about this thing before we rattle on a ton.
Rules
Okay.
of order. It's good.
Number 3, because I hear this accusation a lot. If anybody feels like there's a debate tactic in the room, call it out. And we've got the moderators here. If somebody feels like they're straw manning or appealing to emotion or false authority or whatever, so like, hey, hold on, I don't like that. Point it out. Nobody should be leaving here and then in 2 weeks being like, there was a lot of debate tactics going on. Call it out if you see it, and we'll address it right here.
Yep.
Okay. Number 4, we've kind of already addressed this. So words have to have meaning. We're having these conversations. So even if we want to say that a feeling about a particular word is subjective or whatever, we all have to agree on that. Otherwise, we're going to be lost in the sauce if we're all like arguing, what does it mean to be alpha or beta? And we all have like 4 different definitions working. Okay. And then 2 more. 5 is trying to keep this as scientific as possible. So if somebody says like, well, there was a study in England with 33 million participants, and another guy's like, well, on Instagram, I saw 2 stories. Okay, let's try to keep it like as, I know you do a lot of scientific stuff. I know you've done a lot of reading. Sneako is very scientific here with his Quran. So let's try to keep it as based as possible.
With his
Oh,
Quran.
I'm sorry, I was editing it, my bad. Okay, and then final point. If some side feels like they're not being understood, or if they feel like their points are being misconstrued, ask the other side to just like state like, hey, what do you think I just said? Or hey, what do you think I think about this particular thing? And then the other side will try to restate the argument so that we're all on the same page. Okay. So roughly speaking, just to keep it, yeah. Okay.
I wonder if Sneako brought his Quran the same way that they had Rollo's book on the desk during the last conversation.
Okay.
No,
We all cool? Okay.
Definitely.
Shout out Maggie, substitute teacher, $10 super chat. Thank you, baby.
And we'll stay away from that homonyms and keep it as cordial as possible. So yeah, we'll start with.
And now we lost half of the viewers.
All right, so we'll start with defining what a high value man is, and then also real quick, when we're making arguments, or whatever, I'll be timing you guys at least on the vasectomy part. We're going to cover that first. But let's define what a high value man is.
Mention how this started from last show?
No.
Or no.
No, they know.
Okay.
No, everyone knows.
Trust me. There's
All right.
20,000 people they know.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's define high value man. Who wants to take the first crack at it, so
Let's do
everyone
it.
at the table can agree what it is?
I'll go if you
Alright,
guys
go
want me to go. So, of course,
Interesting.
everybody wants to like nail me on what's a high value man. Okay, so I could have said this on our last engagement here, is that a high value man is the man that other men want to be and other women want to fuck. That's straight out of I think it was my 3rd book or my 2nd book. Okay, that's too broad a definition, I think.
No, I don't like that definition. Not for a high value man. There's a lot of dudes that, are down bad in the hood that, other young men want to try to idolize their life around, but they live shitty lives. and women still want to fuck them. That is not a high value man. A pookie is not a high value man, but a pookie in certain situations might be the alpha of that, but they don't have resources. They don't make a lot of money. They have bad financial backing. They're late on all their loans. They don't keep promises to people. They have no morality and values and virtues. None of that shit. I think that's a terrible definition. God damn it.
So I could have just simply said that. People ask me all the time in the tweet or on Twitter and social media afterwards, like, why didn't you just simply say that? Okay. Well, problem with that is because once you get past that, it's a little bit too broad of a definition. So I did a little bit of homework on the way over here on the plane. And we generally go to, the female delusion calculator on our show. And you guys have used the female delusion calculator as well. So what is a high value man? Well, we've asked that question quite a bit from pretty much every girl that we've had on our show. Now, should it be defined by women? Well, maybe not, but there's a criteria there that forms the basis, I would say, like just the core principle of what is a high value man. So when we go through that, we go and we say, okay, well, how tall is that guy? How much money does that guy make? What is his, is he obese? Is he and there's very specific, details that go into that, and then through that we say, okay, well, that represents what, like 0.02% of the population.
Yeah, I mean, if you're specific, we're talking about the GSS survey, or not the GSS,
no, CDC,
the CDC stuff,
and census stuff. So we always, and you guys do the same thing when we are looking to establish what is a high value man, at least as far as what women are looking for at that time. And I'm not saying that there's a definition for guys as well. As I said, it's other men want to be, and other women want to have sex with.
So what parameters would you?
Exactly. Good question. Now, you guys, right around the first year of your show here, you had Kevin Samuel sitting right here, and one of the things he said is that the guy must make something like $10,000 a month, I believe is what it was.
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly. So that comes out to $120,000 a year. Mm-hmm. Can we agree that if you make $120,000 a year, would that make, like, as far as money is concerned, would that make you a high value guy?
It just depends on the city. Kevin had the most accurate definition of high value man. I don't understand why they don't just reference his definition. For the life of me, I don't understand, but I get it from like a content creator's perspective, because content creators that have different ideas regarding different things are not going to leverage someone else's because they see it as competing in fashion, especially if they weren't tied together.
I think it depends on where you are. Like if you're in Manhattan, I think that would be problematic. If you're in Wichita, Kansas, that's a lot of money.
Okay, so
I think, can we hit? I'll give a very broad definition. I think we can all agree on this. I think in the broadest sense, when we talk about men, we talk about what a high value man is. We think about what men are designed to do. I think that a high value man is somebody that can partition or acquire a lot of resources.
Yes,
in the broadest of senses. And that can be done in a lot of ways.
Do we want to put a specific number on those resources?
I think a lot is relative, so it's going to be more than your fellow guy. Right, so if you make $120,000 a year in Kansas, you're the fucking king.
Correct.
True. If you make $120,000 years in San Francisco, your neighbor is probably a crackhead. Right?
Yeah. So
it just depends on.
Your argument last time was the subjectivity of what you were saying, and that's the thing.
And
no matter what number we say is a subjectivity. For me, high value man is going to be the guy who puts fitness first. He's going to have a job that's scalable, where he's doing something that he loves, and he's going to have his options on what woman that he can date. Now, if you were to look at that and say, like, for instance, I like Grego Gallagher. I'm a big fan of How to Beast. Brandon Carter is a buddy of mine. Wes Watson, Goggins, what's his name? Jocko Willink. Those guys I consider to be high value men. The thing is, though, if Grego Gallagher is dating a woman with breast implants and fucking plastic surgery, another person who has different religious beliefs is going to be like, no, that's haram. That's bad. So that's the thing. It's the subjectivity of it.
Sure. I think important to keep in mind is when we say value, we're implying some sort of exchange between multiple people. So like a moral man or a virtuous man might be way different than a high value man.
Correct.
We can all probably think of people that are very virtuous or moral.
Wouldn't someone virtuous who goes by the Quran then have a different definition? Like, for instance, you guys had an argument before about family creation. If several of those guys I just mentioned, they are not interested in family creation. They're interested in being the most attractive versions of themselves they can be. So you would have one person say, this is not a high value man. They would call that person a joke. And another guy would be like, yo, man, I have been used by women my whole life. I've been broke my whole fucking life. And I see this guy and he's fucking killing it. That's a high value man. The subjectivity of it is like something like when you...
I don't think it's as subjective as you're making it. I don't think religious people would really disagree about that. I just don't think that, and this is where red pill kind of hits the wall, because it doesn't go past just how much money you make. So
yeah, or like I think something that's really important.
That's just one aspect
Yeah,
of what a high
the
value
subjectivity
man
part
is.
comes in, I think, when it comes to, if we use my broad definition of resource acquisition, the subjective part is what do you need to acquire resources? So for instance, we say fitness, right? Fitness could be a proxy for acquiring resources. If you're hunting in the wilderness, a more fit guy can climb a tree, kill a bear, whatever. But in some societies, fitness isn't a proxy for how much money you make, right? I imagine that on average, there's probably a lot of really wealthy people that are not, I don't know how much Bill Gates can bench press, right? But for resource acquisition, he's very, very, very valuable. So, and then also I think we have to keep in mind, when I say high value, and I know Rollo likes to do this a lot, and so I'm going to try to play in this realm. I'm not trying to morally load any of these words. A high value man. So this question got asked, right?
You mean just supply and demand?
Yeah. So Epstein was a high value man.
Yeah, okay, I
but
got you.
obviously morally a horrible
bankrupt.
character,
Of course,
right?
okay.
And there's going to be a lot of high value people that have a lot of value in society in terms of how much resource they can demand, right? Or Genghis Khan or whatever, who are morally deplorable people. And there's going to be a lot of very morally righteous people, virtuous people who don't really possess a lot of value. Maybe it's a carpenter, or maybe
If
it's
I can intervene real fast, I think one thing that we can all agree to, right, is I agree that it's immoral, right? A guy being high value, so it could be someone like
amoral.
Amoral. It could be, you know, someone that's good or bad. But I would say this: respected by peers, has a skill set, he has a network of successful men around him, and we could say $100,000 per year. But we'll say, let's say, if you make $100,000 per year, and let's say like maybe a Kansas living type quality.
Sure. So those are all subjective, but we'd all probably agree in the West.
so
that'll get you to probably.
So
how
I would say
we'd agree on the vector.
That comes closer.
Yeah, sure.
We'd agree on the vector.
True.
And you seem to be agreeing with Myron now, but you also said last time that Elon Musk is not a high value man.
From a particular context, no, he's not.
Please talk about this context.
From what context?
Well, from the context that he is not married, is a high value man married?
That doesn't
Not
have anything to do with being
necessarily.
married or not.
Well,
Not necessarily. See, his arguments are breaking down already.
it does to the definition that other people
Do you
use,
think
though.
other people think that being a high value man would have some correlation to being married have
But see, the issue is that you're talking about other people's definition. That's why I said that it's critical to define a definition that all men can follow, that all men have a trajectory point for or a North Star for. But just because someone else says high value man is married and another person doesn't, it doesn't make it true. Value, exchange. I think of supply and demand. I think of resources. I think of economics. Let's start at that point. Marriage has had nothing to do with that. Let's keep going.
Kids.
I would say to
some
keep it
people would
simple,
say
guys.
because the tweet that I made, everybody had a very big problem with not focusing on family creation or not getting married. So is a high
Because
value man married?
people saw it as
Guys,
advice. Like
I think for the purpose of this debate, we want to probably keep it as simple as possible so that it isn't extremely nuanced definition. I think if the person is married or not, should it matter? I think it should be on things that we can all mutually agree. Like,
or how about we can agree that a person of high value probably has the ability to get married and have a lot of children, but they might not necessarily.
If they choose not to do so, that's on them.
Yeah.
And going back to the morality, I think that's a fantastic point. Even though someone like Epstein is a deplorable individual, on paper, he had a network of net worth people. He had politicians in his pocket. He had quite a bit of money. He had a skill set.
he probably had a vasectomy too.
Yeah, probably.
Shout out to the CIA. Shout out to the CIA.
By now? I would hope so by now.
He did have a skill set, and he earned a good amount of money. So on paper, he's a high value guy, and I think that's something that we can all agree to. So
Let's move on.
Fair enough. Okay, so we'll go off of respected by peers, has a skill set, network of other successful people around him. Morality doesn't matter, and we could say $100,000, if not more. And when we talk about $100,000, we don't mean $100,000, but we mean the ability to live in a certain way. Fair?
Cost of living adjustment.
Yeah, cost of living adjustment. Fair
Consistently.
Can I take? Oh, you're probably going to say that. You're probably going to say the same thing I'm going to say.
Go ahead.
Okay, so but he also has to be useful.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Utilities. Okay.
This is
So
all the Kevin Samuels
right. So there's a
definition.
competency. So is a high value man educated? Like
well, so
formally
competency
educated?
again is going to be valued by society. So, for instance, I can change a light bulb, but I can't fix a toilet. So my competency in the household is going to be relatively low. But as an entertainer, my competency is very high. That happens to be valued by society right now. In another society, I might just be left for dead in the woods. So competencies and same.
So again,
you can probably find
subjective to who's doing the
exactly. You can find
evaluations.
the best hunter possible in sub-Saharan Africa and bring him to the United States, and he's not going to do shit.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah, I love the way that Destiny can rebut these points and give tangible examples. Like one example regarding competencies. Let's say prior to transportation, you were the only shopkeeper in your town. To your town, being a shopkeeper, you are extremely valuable and you're probably compensated well for it if you're able to get the goods in, put them in a store, and you sell to everybody in your town and there's no other competition. You will probably be a high value man just based off the value of getting that in and selling to all these people with a lack of competition. Again, economics, value. Now in 2023, you got robots substituting McDonald's workers. You understand what I'm saying? So to Destiny's point, it depends. Your competency also depends on kind of the situation, the time, the technology around. Teachers 100 years ago were a lot more valued than teachers today. Also, let me also talk about this as well. I brought up some of the Kevin Samuels, actually the entire, what he used to say. He used to say 10K a month, making that for 5 years or more. He would say group acceptance, so being recognized by other people in your peer group that are also high value men, a network of other high value men. 5, visibility on a LinkedIn level, so ensuring that what it is that you do is recognized by other people. It's just not no flimsy whimsy job that doesn't make sense. Number 6 was utility, which is your usefulness to yourself, to the group. All the things that they just named that Myron recounted is essentially those in a lot different words. Okay.
I think education has to be a component. I think if they're like a doctor,
education could be a way towards competency. There's lots of different ways you can build competency, right?
Okay, cool. So is that fair with all you guys?
Yeah, competency.
So one more time. So just to define for the audience here, when we talk about high value guy, we're talking about someone that's respected by the peers, has a skill set, has competence, has a network of other successful men that respect them, and we'll say $100,000 per year, bare minimum, based on
they're rewriting
living a certain way, not necessarily
kind of sort of
$100,000 per
rewriting
se,
Kevin's
but $100K per year, just so you guys have a placeholder. Now we go into alpha male.
Why are they talking
I mean,
about
I don't
that?
use this. We don't use this term that often, but I mean,
think
just
people
for the
outside the
purposes.
space use it a lot.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why we're talking about high value, because that's kind of what has replaced alpha male over the years. Like when I first started writing, it was all about alpha. And then like right around 2017, 2018, everybody started using high value.
So do you guys want to just use H?
No, High Value Man came around 2019, probably late 2019, when Kevin Samuels made the term emerge.
GM as the same interchangeable?
Now, he didn't coin the term, but through his genius mind was able to make it into a mainstream conversation.
I think Kevin Samuels made it popular for the most part.
There you go.
I'm probably going to fight in particular on alpha male, but that's going to be later because he wants to do the vasectomy talk first. So
Okay, but how do you want to define alpha male then? So we have.
I don't know.
why are
I'll
they
ask
talking
them
about
later.
alpha male?
Because when, that'll come up
I have
later.
a lot to
That's
say
a
on
whole
that
line
too.
of questioning.
Okay. And then hypergamy. How do you guys want to define hypergamy?
Let me do one more real quick on the useful
please.
side of things, because I had a list of other things here. So it was like, as far as being useful and educate, I wanted to ask the education question.
Okay.
The other thing is, you got to be productive. Obviously, you got to be at least a productive member of society. Would that also be included in the conventional?
It is, but all of these things are
value
proxies for value. So again, I'm very productive, but it's just because people like entertainment. In another society, I would have no production.
And that's where the respect comes in.
Yeah.
Because your productivity will align to some.
And then the other aspect of this is recognition. So people, when they see you, they understand that you are high value in some way. Like they go,
almost every human is wired for
that's
resources.
Kevin's LinkedIn
but
level.
We're also plugging that person into a hierarchy.
Well, I think it depends on which hierarchy. Like he said before, if he goes to a mechanic shop.
That's why that's the subjective thing that we're trying
An extreme example would be like Stephen Hawking, right? Who had motor neuron disorder, was relegated to a wheelchair, but was one of the smartest men who ever lived. That would be an example of someone who's super competent, but in other areas isn't competent. I would consider him a high value man, but you know, he couldn't walk. So that's an interesting. That's what the subjectivity of it.
All right. Cool. So I guess alpha male will deal
move
for
on.
later.
Let's
And then
just use
hypergamy, how do you
Kevin's
guys want to
definition.
define that just so we understand here? Because I mean, it's an ever-growing term. It used to be the practice of marrying up originally. So how do you guys want to do it?
Okay, so let me just see if I can define terms here. Okay, so the classic understanding, if you go and you look in the dictionary, you go to Wikipedia right now, the classic understanding of hypergamy.
Now listen, this topic of conversation of high value man, you could tell is not Rollo's wheelhouse. But this topic of conversation about hypergamy, nail this one.
To the letter.
This is him.
It was a term that was used by a sociologist. I want to say he was in the 1950s, and he was studying the caste system in India. In India, in Hindu cultures, and how the tendency for women to marry from a lower caste to a higher caste.
Sure.
That was based primarily on the socioeconomic status of that person and that family and everything else, and that's the original idea came from. So it's based primarily on sort of like the provisioning, protection, and parental investment. It's dowries, it's marriage, it's the formalization of like a relationship. In the last, I would say, 20 some odd years, we broadened the definition of hypergamy to include the alpha fucks beta buck side of things. Okay, so there is the short-term sexual side of things because women mate up, across, and up, as well as marry across and up. And as far as the definition is concerned, I've been trying to do this myself, right, is to expand the definition. But also people like Jordan Peterson have been using that expanded definition for probably going on another 5 or 6 years right now. So,
Okay. So
that would be my definition of it.
He's
to boil it
way more crisp on that, just like I anticipated.
down, will we say the practice of marrying and or dating up when it comes to socioeconomic
The
attempt.
So this is so I'm going to come from an evolutionary standpoint. There is some algorithm that Homo sapien males have to where they can see a woman and be like, that woman's attractive immediately. It's not something that's taught to them. They know immediately that woman is attractive.
She passes the boner test.
She passes exactly very quickly. There must be some correlating algorithm in a female psychology to determine the men she finds attractive or would consider having sex with, and the men she doesn't. Now that is going to be more complicated because for women, there are so many more things. What we talk about in statistics, negative kurtosis. There are so many more things that women are attracted to about men. The book, Why Women Have Sex by David Buss and Cindy Messon lists 237 reasons why women choose to have sex, whereas for men, it's like 4. So because of that algorithm, that complicated evolutionary algorithm is hypergamy. That's what I would consider it. It is the way by which women sift which guy I like from which guy I don't like. It must exist just like it exists in men. So that's the way I would pose it.
All right, would it be fair to say it's sifting up though, right?
Yes,
it's not sifting, just sifting. It's sifting up
because her evolutionary imperative is to find the strongest son that she can. So that strongest son is going to deal with some competency or some physicality that man has that she's choosing him for.
Okay.
All right. Is that fair for you guys?
That's
I accept the definition.
You accept that definition. All right.
Yeah,
So a quick little recap. So we went over this defining the terms. We went over high value men. We say about $100,000 when it comes to the cost of living of a certain way, respected by your peers, having a skill set network of successful individuals around you, competence, and it is amoral. So even someone like Jeff Epstein, even though he's a terrible person, he would be considered a high value man on paper, just so that we have.
Can you say Epstein?
Epstein, whatever. Epstein, doesn't matter. He's one of them boys anyway. He's one of them boys. Who cares?
Listen, he faked his own death. He's fine. Whatever.
And then
we don't know about that.
I'm kidding.
Hypergamy is the attempt,
Allegedly.
the attempt to mate up or sifting up, and having filters for men. And then alpha male I guess that's a bridge we'll cross when we get there. So I guess we'll open up the discussion here, guys, with obviously the infamous tweet. Let's pull it up real quick, Chris. We got 28K y'all watching. So
like the video, man.
We'll probably have to kill the Facebook and Twitter stream here very soon. But come on over to YouTube, guys.
Doesn't that get you banned off of Twitter for cuck? Or Twitch for cuck?
Yeah, I think so.
We're banned on Twitch anyway.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So this was Rollo's tweet. So I'm gonna read it real quick for y'all. The quickest path to becoming a high value man. Number 1, do not get married. Number 2, avoid family creation. Number 3, vasectomy in your 20s. Number 4, live consistently. Number 5, eliminate all sedations. Number 6, learn game and networking. Number 7, play to your strengths and build wealth. And then number 8, resist easing up on your focus. So I guess I'll turn it to Rollo. Do you want to?
Sure. Okay. So I think we have already established the fact that to be a high value man, we have a sort of a convention, at least somewhat of a conventional definition of that right now. Now, how long would it take the average guy to achieve what we would in some way say this is what makes you a high value guy? It doesn't have to be the $120,000, but like the functional evaluated equivalent of that. I think it takes longer for men,
for sure,
to reach maturity and to reach a point of where they get their they can maximize their potential.
Well, let's stick to the science because that's what he wanted. Number 1, we had Richard Reeves on, and he talked about boys being 1 or 2 years behind women as far as development is concerned, and also from the book Dataclysm, men reaching their sexual peak around or attractiveness peak around the age of 38 to 43, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
So that's science behind what you're saying. It would take longer for men.
But my point being is that, and I'll reiterate this one more time. The reason why I put this out there is because I watched you guys with Derek Moneyberg, and I think it was Brandon Carter, who was on here. And Brandon Carter, I'm really impressed with Brandon Carter. I think he's funny. He's a great guy. But his sort of outlook on life is to maximize his efficiency, his potential. So it's he doesn't go to the grocery store. He doesn't own a car. He doesn't, the things that would take him away from staying on his grind. I mean, to the extreme. And now this is an extreme that I would not do, clearly, because I have a wife of 27 years. I have a daughter of 25 years. I am who I am. I do what I do.
You have a car.
Right? So I have a car. Yeah, actually, I got 2 cars. So, I do have a car. So clearly, this is not about me. This is the most over the top, absurd, extreme example.
You also have a kid. I think that's we all should point
exactly.
that out.
So is
So
Brandon Carter.
So to who's Brandon Carter?
The guy you're talking about.
You don't know Brandon
You know
Carter?
Brandon Carter?
Really
You've
good.
been on the show with
No,
Brandon
he
Carter.
said he has a kid. He was just saying yes.
He
you're
also,
saying Brandon Carter.
Brandon
We couldn't hear you.
also has a kid.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand.
Sorry.
But
I'm just so confused. He's very long-winded in these damn explanations. What does Brandon Carter having a kid have to do with vasectomy? Did Brandon Carter get a vasectomy after he had a kid? That still doesn't make sense to me. Why you would suggest it to a young man in his 20s as the quickest way to become a high-value man. And again, you guys already understand my argument, which is if you want to say mitigate the most risk, then vasectomy actually would make sense in that argument. Shout out to Optimus Prime, $10 super chat. MTR always doing A1 live. Shout out my brother. Appreciate the super chat. Shout out to Ivan Jr. with a $10 super chat. Women's choices in men the last 15 years has brought into question what a high value man is. It's so dumb. We should know by the answer now. Feminist movement has destroyed fundamentals of a man. Shout out to Ivan.
But the idea is this: is that the most over the top, like, what are you willing to sacrifice to get to the point so that you can get to that state of being a high value male, right? So, by the way, when I'm putting out the idea of vasectomy, okay, keep it coming because I love that one. But
Okay.
if there was a male birth control pill, I probably would have put that in there as well, because what that one section in there was meant to say is that beware of, like, when the sperm leaves your body, you lose all power over paternity and children and everything else. That's one of the things that really slows guys down. It's a hindrance
Right,
to
minutes.
becoming
Sure,
to getting
sure,
up to becoming a high value guy. So family creation. I'm not saying you should do these things, but if you want to get to the quickest way to doing those things, because it takes longer for men to mature into their
not the
peak potential, then these are the sacrifices that you're going to have to make to get to it as fast as you possibly can.
I feel like
I disagree.
Sneako's probably going to take off from this because when I came into these spaces, so this is kind of a question that I had, and I think I fought with Fresh and Fit, I think, a lot on our first couple episodes, trying to figure out, like, what are you guys advocating for? So when I would bring up, like, Andrew Tate tweets and Bugattis and all that shit, a lot of the times these two clowns would tell me, they'd say, oh, this stuff is just a proxy for success. You know, you don't actually need the Bugatti. You need the ability to buy the Bugatti. You don't need to travel the world. You need to have freedom, you know, and all these things. So
He's lucky we're moderating.
Yeah,
man.
so it seems like, so it feels like
Lamborghinis.
it feels like,
Okay.
yeah, the goal initially wasn't to, like, be the richest motherfucker in the world. The goal was to have the freedom
ability.
to basically do what you want.
Right.
And then I think the confusing part is it feels like there's this kind of schism happening right now, or it's already started to happen in the Red Pill community, where you've got, like, the kind of trad people that are going in one direction, and then you've got, like, the grind set hustle culture that are going in the other direction. And it feels like the lightning point for this was your tweet, where it was like, okay, we're going to make it clear where we stand.
Yeah.
Get a fucking vasectomy, fuck family, and do this shit. And I think that it feels like the ultimate red pillar to you guys is what this is the feeling I have. The ultimate red pillar is a guy that grinds his fucking life away, and then at 35, he's, like, got fucking 15 million in the bank. He's fucked 50 girls, and now he's looking for, like, the best mom that he can find, who's like 20, 21 years old. He's gonna get with that girl, 0-1 body count at the most, maybe 1, 0 at the best, right? Virgin girl gets with her, has a family, and then boom, that's like his life. Whereas it feels like on the kind of traditional side, it's like, well, what if you were, like, 24 and found a really good woman at 22, and then you had a family at 25, and you followed your career, she stayed at home, took care of the kids, and you followed that more traditional route. And your tweet, I think, really showed the division of people in terms of how they felt about which of the two lifestyles people were actually aiming for.
You got it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then Sneako can...
Yeah, so what do you exactly do you believe in? Like, do you think that is the life that you should follow? Because when you go to the red pill spaces, that's pretty much the end route, is because you're high value, you got a bunch of Lamborghinis, you're extremely rich. And we talk about competence when it comes to a high value man. Like, I didn't have a rich dad growing up, and that didn't really hinder his competence. And in fact, in a lot of ways, being a father will help you become more competent because other people are dependent and you're responsible for them. So that will make you become a full, capable man, which is, I think, the most important part of life. It's the most important part of life is not having a bunch of hoes, not fucking 50 girls, or getting the most amount of money possible and just hustle, grinding
Rollo's
forever.
not saying
The reason that we are here is to have a family, is to create. And so you see the red pill, and it's a response to feminism. You see this doomer way, like all these girls are hoes, all these girls on Instagram, they're all thoughts, whatever, they all belong to the streets. And so the reaction to that is the red pill, which is basically feminism, just male feminism. It's the same response. We make fun of girls who say that they want to freeze their eggs and wait till they're 35, and then men are giving the same advice to each other, saying, and I know you're not saying that's advice, but pretty much, like, if you look at the definition of advice, that's what that tweet was.
Yeah, so I think there's two things here. We specifically don't run around calling girls 304s And like, I actually have a problem with it because I hear you sometimes talk about the audience there. We have to separate the audience, almost like Christ, Christianity, and the church. We have to separate the audience because I agree with you. There's some shit that I see that people write on your streams as well, where I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? This is crazy. And I don't want to be associated with it. Red pill is not, and again, I'm red pill adjacent. Red pill is not something I get a union card for that I pay dues for. It's an ethereal thing that just sort of exists. Like he calls it a praxeology. So the idea that like one of the things that's happened is every time, because he calls himself the godfather of it, when somebody does some stupid shit in the arena, then it's his fault. And then now we're gonna punch his book. Because now the thing is, it's just a cloud, but then there's a book. Okay, now we have a physical thing to attack. And now Rollo has a tweet. Now we have a physical thing to attack. And so that's part of the issue, is that like now he's being held accountable for every, and I agree with you. Some of the things you hear are fucking idiotic.
Over the top, yeah.
Right.
Well, he's being held accountable because he calls himself, did he just say that he calls himself the godfather of the red pill?
Because here's an example. When we go over the psychological studies that show that men don't have the same, they don't necessarily cheat more because they have more higher body count, but women do. They tend to be unhappy in a relationship. There's the Institute for Family Studies study that we refer to all the time. That's not a validation for cheating. We're not suggesting men cheat. You said that in the response thing that I definitely do not think men should cheat, because in that whole situation you're still lying. That is a lack of integrity regardless. But do men have the ability to have more sexual partners early on in life? I was 20 years old. I'm 45 now. I was 20 years old at once, and there was a point in my life where I was going to UT Austin and I wanted to have sex with attractive women, and I didn't think about anything else except doing that. That's how my brain worked. And later on, did it affect me negatively? I don't think it did. I just don't think it had the same thing. So I don't think it's a rationale for that belief. But the thing is, what happens is anytime something bad happens or somebody says something stupid, it just comes back. It's like, now all red pillars are saying this all the time, and I just don't agree with that.
I understand what you're saying here. So first, let me clarify one thing. So I understand.
Should we define the red pill?
No, I don't think that's going to take all night.
How long
I think
next week.
So I think the issue with Rollo's tweet, because for a lot of people it looks like advice, and for Rollo, he feels like it wasn't advice. I think the reality was, the disconnect is that that tweet was advice, but it was for advice to become a certain type of high value man that Rollo isn't saying everybody needs to become.
It said the quickest.
So, yeah, the quickest way to get to this part, it was the advice to do that, but he wasn't necessarily advising you to do that, right? It would be like him tweeting out, like, if you want to become the flattest person possible, jump off a cliff. And I say, well, is that advice to jump off a cliff? Well, if you want to be the flattest person possible, but you don't have to do this thing because you don't have to be the flattest person.
It's an if-then statement.
Yeah, exactly, sure.
Well, and the other
Which is,
thing
I
is,
think-
I mean, there's a few people who got it almost immediately. Hotep Jesus got it immediately. He did. He did stream it. Jedediah Beulah, while you were on with Jedediah, she got it immediately. She's like, I know Rollo. I know he's not like this. I know this is a troll. This is she understood it immediately.
Well, so here's this is confusing at what this is, right? Because the thing is that they ask a question, debate vasectomy, and everyone's kind of going around the bush. What it sounds like is that Destiny is saying, well, I understand how it could be misinterpreted because you said that it's not advice, but it kind of is advice, but it's advice for a certain type of red pill lifestyle. And it sounds like the red pill lifestyle is that would be the antithesis of what Sneako is now advocating for. The antithesis being get the Bugatti, get all the wealth, be, 62 years old and have, $1 million in the bank. It seems like it's the antithesis versus if you were 24, found a nice young lady who's, 22, 23, y'all got married a year later, and you lived a completely different lifestyle. So for that lifestyle, vasectomy wouldn't make sense. But still, I think that the crux of the issue of the point is that it's still not the quickest, because you're not suggesting in this advice to just be abstinent or just use protection. You're suggesting something that can in some cases not be reversed. And the longer that you go without doing it, the less that it can be reversed. I think after like 10 years, it's like a 50% reversal rate. So you are in effect sterilizing a component of your audience. Shout out to Tell Us Blaze with the $10 super chat. Thank you for picking up the mantle laid down by KS. Shout out, my brother. Your content is needed for these younger generations. Shout out, my bro. Appreciate you. Shout out to Before the Billions with the $20 super chat. I'm going to be high value regardless. Shout out, my G. If I had my soundboard here, I would right for you. All right. I think I might have missed one more. Shout out to Tony Majors for becoming a channel member. Shout out to Tyshawn Nicholas, $20 super chat. Instead of 100K, just say upper class. It covers all the financial bases. No, because upper class is subjective. 100K is objective, right? It also covers the financial base. Also, leadership and contribution should be on top of the list. DJ Academic screaming, "I am the prize," while beating his girl is not high value man, right? I disagree with the term upper class is is a subjective term, and that's what I'm saying we should try to start to get out of. Maybe the $100,000 is different from location to location, but there should be a rough estimate and or definition that is adjusted dependent upon the region that you live in. You know, maybe it's like a formula that you plug in. Maybe it's not just saying 100,000. Maybe it's not saying 10K a month. Maybe it's like a formula that you plug in, depending upon the region that you are in, to determine kind of that income cutoff. But it's also going to be, you know, changed and different dependent upon, you know, because of that region. So let's move on. Appreciate the $20 super chat.
Sure, but then I also saw
But
you.
she's familiar with my background.
I also saw you tweet the next day, like you were kind of making fun of the TradCon way of life, to saying that you want to be at your funeral bed with a bunch of kids around.
I was
saying that you would rather be listening to metal in your car.
I was
and
mocking,
that's how you want to go.
I was mocking the idea of this sort of pastoral kind of Norman Rockwell fantasy of dying on your bed with, like, as an old man, with surrounded by grandchildren and whatever, and like as if that like my funeral's going to beat your funeral,
Right?
As if it's like
heavy metal in a car.
It's I'll put it this way: would you rather
Sneako's
go
gotta
out? Would you
stop
rather
trolling.
go out in a blaze of glory? Would you rather? Was it better to burn out than fade away? What would you
Yeah,
rather?
I don't
what would
see
you
heavy
rather do?
metal in your car as a blaze of glory. That seems.
Okay,
Right, but it's subjective, isn't it?
but here's the thing: is it's over the top because I'm drawing attention to this fantasy of staying in your bed in an assisted living facility when 90% of people are never going to experience that. But it's a fantasy that we sell people so that we can sell them other ideologies.
I want to consider one other thing. You remember what he said earlier? He's like, one of the things you said was avoid family creation. Had I written that same tweet, what I would have said instead was be the one who chooses when and where you have kids, and don't let
Control the birth.
Control the birth.
Wow, imagine that. From
Well, I
book one.
understand. Yeah,
That
so I
should've been
understand.
written,
An
though.
example of that is a vasectomy. I
Sure.
would not have said vasectomy, but guess what?
I
My
know you
tweet
wouldn't.
would not have gone viral. I wish I could say vasectomy on Twitter all day and go fucking viral. It's
That's the
incredible.
only thing they focused
So
on.
I
too.
understand what you're saying there. So I would argue that you do pay dues to some extent to certain groups that you're a part of. So this is something that I noticed being relatively outside of groups myself. I kind of watch how people move through groups, and it seems like there very much is a kind of there are a lot of groups that exist in these internet communities, and you get benefits for being part of the group because you kind of inherit audiences and cross-pollination from other people.
Sure.
And then there are sometimes shitty parts of being in the group. So for instance, if somebody says or does something crazy, well, now you're kind of on the hook for it because this motherfucker in your union just said some wild shit, and
He's directly talking about Fresh and Fit without making it known that he's talking about Fresh and Fit. Ivan says Sneako's emotional debates is super cringe. Oh, he's debated before?
you kind of have to go to bat for him.
But they're calling out.
Yeah, and then I won't be
Oh,
a
Jesus Christ. Did I just hit the goddamn backwards button?
Additional route. And your tweet, I think, really showed the division of people in terms of how they
Here's an example. When we go over the cycle,
You find the red pill.
shit, and now you kind of have to go to bat for him.
Yeah.
I think that
So anyway, so we're back, guys. so what he's saying is that Rollo said something. He's the godfather of the community. Fresh and Fit had to come up to bat with him. So you're a part of that unit. You're a part of that union. Glenn Lawrence says $10 super chat. Hey MTR, were you told to practice abstinence when you were younger? How did that work out? The point to suggest extreme is to get to meet people in the middle. No, I didn't practice abstinence when I was younger, nor was I told to. I have nightmares. Nah, I'm just joking. I don't have nightmares regarding this, but I still remember my pops having the abstinence talk with, well, not abstinence talk, but the prophylactic talk with me, and this goddamn bastard brought in a banana and put a condom on the banana. I was horrified. This is right before I went off to college. Oh, it was horrific. You know, sometimes you just think about weird shit in the middle of the night, like, oh God, I can't believe he did that. But he was trying to make sure that, you know, I didn't, you know, go and get a baby early. You understand what I'm saying? So, but I've always been a wrap it up kid. And in fact, like, I feel like I follow so much within the lines of that, because I'm thinking like all of these people, like I remember seeing like math equations of like, if he messed with 3 people, she messed with 3 people, and then you fucked a girl who messed with the guy that messed with 3 people in all of like the interaction, if it was all raw, like all the bodies that could be sharing, or the potentials of STDs and like the percentage of what it is, right? Like all of that shit, I was just like, you know what, just wrap it up. And I think the wrap it up is the reason why I don't have kids right now. It's a strong reason why. So it benefited me. Now, if I heard vasectomy back in the day, and I don't know, I just have to think about that, do research on it, and I still come to the conclusion that it was ridiculous. That's it.
Something that I wholeheartedly disagree with is this idea that you can say like, well, you know, everybody in my comment section might say this, but I didn't say that, or I'm just making descriptions. Humans never just make descriptions. We never just observe things. The process of choosing to observe something already requires a decision to be made, right? When you go into a laboratory to study medicine, we're not just plugging random chemicals and random elements into a formula and see what happens. We're doing something to try to figure out like, well, what is going to help make humans healthier? What's going to be a good medication for treating a disease or whatever? That's typically what we do. So when we're analyzing like the red pill, it's not just a praxeology, I think you called it, because even I think in your first book you say like the goal is to make it so that your wife is not fucking the alpha, right? The reason why we observe things is so that we can take something useful from it and then go and do something with it.
Yes.
If I had an audience and I was making certain observations, and this has happened a lot, where I fight with a lot of black people, I notice my audience is getting a little bit racist. I fight with a lot of white people, I notice my audience is also getting a little racist. I fight with a bunch of women, they're starting to hate women, right? I notice that like if I do certain things, my audience definitely responds in certain ways, and your guys as well.
But you're not racist.
But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I think what matters is the impact you have on other people around you. Like if I go every day and I see my wife and I'm like, hey, what's up? And it's not at the end of like 6 months, she's like, you haven't told me that you think I'm pretty like a single time. And I'm thinking like, okay, well, obviously I think you're pretty, my fucking wife. She's like, well, I need to hear it. I can't just say like, well, listen here, you stupid bitch. Obviously I think you're pretty. I don't have to say shit to you, motherfucker, right? I was like, okay, I have to understand how you feel. I've got to tell you that I think you're beautiful, blah, blah, blah. I have to do that every day because that's part of like what really matters at the end of the day is the impact you have on another person.
Should you be held accountable for your
Sneako's looking at the comments.
racist comments in your from your streamers?
Like directly, like you said them, no. But if you're fostering a certain type of audience, I think as leaders, which whether or not we want to believe it, to some extent we are, that's how we're treated, right? We're paid. When somebody gives you, like, we'll say on one end, well, I don't influence my audience. And then in the next breath, somebody will be like, I'll give you X $1,000 to promote a product. Why are you promoting a product? Because if I tell you to buy it, I know you will. Right? So obviously we have influence of our audience. And if our audience is all heading in a certain direction, I think it's important to be like, hold on, guys. I see you guys are saying a lot of this shit. Maybe we need to pull it back. So when you say things about like avoiding family creation, you know, you might say like, well, I don't actually mean to avoid it. I just mean to choose when you have children. That might be the case, but broadly in the red pill speaking, I've seen this huge push where it's like, never fucking have kids, never get married, women are trying to steal your shit, child support, alimony, women are coming after you. And it's like, okay, well, combine that with the vasectomy advice or the, you know, control your birthing advice, and it makes the relationship seem very adversarial, like you are trying to avoid having kids at all costs. That's what it feels like, I guess, from the outset. And I think that's what a lot of the followers of red pill people in comment sections, I think that's the message they would carry forward.
I think the issue...
First things first, this is not sped up. That's Destiny just, that's 1x. This is not 1.25, 1.4. That brother just talked fast as shit. But he's absolutely right regarding the audiences, right? It's similar to like, let's say you're CEO of a company and there's racist people within your organization, right? That doesn't reflect to you directly, right? But you're held accountable for the racist people that you hired within your organization, right? Or the people that are stealing within your organization. It reflects badly on the entire organization and the CEO, because the CEO has to be accountable for all 10 to 20 to 30,000 employees. It's the same thing as being a content creator. If your audience is spamming Hi Hitler down into the chat, and that's not what you stand for as a content creator, then you have to make it clear to your audience not to goddamn do that. Shout out to the super chats that are coming at the end. I think I missed a couple. Shout out to Optimus Prime, $5 super chat. My dad used to buy me rubbers, but did he show you on a banana how to put that shit on? All right. Shout out, my G. Shout out to Vincent Lane with a $10 super chat. Caught under the live and had to support my light-skinned brother. Gotta add a Hafiz drop. Shout out to Vincent Lane. Yeah, I was thinking about putting the Hafiz thing into my soundboard. Lego!
Issue is then who's responsible? Because one of the issues, one thing we tried, Rollo and I tried, is our show. We try to have girls on there who have master's degrees. We try to have girls on there who do all different kinds of jobs. And when we do, we get the exact same response. When we had Miss Nevada on there, Miss Nevada, and they were like, yeah, she's a ran through fucking hoe. And I was like, what the fuck can we do?
We have women on there with master's degrees.
What can we fucking do? And so the thing is, while I agree with you, no matter what we do, this audience still exists and they still talk about it.
But why do they think that? Why do they think that about these people?
The thing is,
because they want something to complain about. They want something to bitch and moan about.
Yeah, but they could complain about.
No. And they also just want to be entertained, and they think that by trolling in the comment section, it adds to their value as human beings. So I take a little bit of what I said just back. It's less so of the CEO relationship, because those are people that are within your company. The people in your content user base, they're not within your company. You guys are not within my company. So I am lesser to a degree responsible for the things that you guys say, as opposed to a CEO of a company. I rescind the portion of what I just said. Let's go.
About anything, right?
They're
choosing to complain about these particular subjects.
I also don't think commenters are the normal in the middle of the distribution. I think commenters are on the extreme ends of the distribution, which is why I personally don't feel super responsible for some of the idiotic things that they say.
Sometimes.
So I do understand what you're saying. Are we fostering an echo chamber? We specifically aren't. Well, like
People think we're soft on the girls because
Constantly.
we don't.
They think we are
because
so
we're not
soft on
like
the girls.
we're not like in their face too much, because they're looking for blood. They're looking for something that's exhilarating. They're looking for Jerry Springer.
Entertainment.
You know?
But how many people do you think saw that tweet, and whether or not you call it advice, saw that and are now going to apply it? Especially because we talk about how important it is as leaders. You call yourself the godfather of the red pill. Like you kind of own this ideology, in a sense, like you are the forefront of it. So is tweeting that a good idea?
I think I put okay, first off, it was meant to provoke. That's number one. And it did. I got Matt Walsh, I got Ben Shapiro, I got Lauren Shane. We wouldn't even be talking about this right now.
I don't have any of those people retweeting my shit. That's the only thing I'm saying. Like I retweeted vasectomy 5 times on Twitter.
And we're still talking about it 2 weeks later. It was success. It was a fucking great viral
for.
Yeah, but god damn it, is there no way to go viral and successful for truly accurate shit? Like, is there no way to do that? So what you guys are listening to is the attempt to go viral and putting information out there that continues to push a bad light onto male content creators, right? So like, it puts a bad light. All these other content creators from the other side of the planet start to talk negatively regarding male podcasts or male content spaces. But then we come over here and we have a discussion and get into the nuances of the conversation. But them and their audiences don't give a shit about the nuances of the conversation. So if it's for money, if it's to just go viral, right? Like, it's like, to what end? Shout out to Tyshawn Nichols again. Your commenters can get you banned off of YouTube. That is for sure. They can get you banned, especially on Twitch. Twitch, the commenters will especially get you banned. On YouTube, it's a little bit more lenient than on Twitch. That's why Colin is gone. He attracted white supremacists, is paying now for the years of content I've watched of yours. I'm not sure who that is. Let's keep going.
By the way, and you yourself said so as well. You want to go viral, you got to say the most outlandish things. So Twitter,
I would say,
but if that was really the only reason then you wouldn't have gotten that debate and got so emotional about everything that happened. You would have started. You called us fucking idiots. You called us douche. And also, if it was just in order to
because you weren't getting it. That's why.
Well, then you would have been rubbing your hands and be like, okay, I got the reaction I wanted. Here they are talking about it.
That's a good point,
all these people are talking about it.
It's not your fault, but to be fair, he did a reaction video where he said he was married for 50 years. I'm a cokehead, and Justin Waller pays for prostitutes.
Damn.
Oh,
so
shit.
To be fair, there was a little ad hominem attack on us. You weren't part of it, but that's probably where some of this came from.
I would have taken that if I were you.
Yeah.
Just saying.
yeah, because you wouldn't be here for it. You'd be fucking 2 hours late, Fresh. Shut the fuck up.
By the way, I've never.
They stay sunny and fresh.
So going back, because
I like what Sneako said right there. He's essentially saying that, listen, if you really meant, because that's another point I think about. Did Rollo really meant for that shit to go viral, or is that something that he actually believes in and thought it was a good 300 IQ tweet? Right? Because Sneako's saying that, well, if you really believe that and you expected it to go viral, then why did you call into the show and start calling me a douche nozzle? That's essentially what Sneako has just said.
So Sneako, you have some traditional conservative beliefs. So you disagree with the whole vasectomy part. What is the main, I guess, issue with it? Is it because of the lack of family creation? You think that's going to lead to degeneracy?
I'm
I think the two branching paths that I set up,
So
like, what are you guys advocating for? Like, do you think if a guy could do it, if a guy could be 25 at the head of his career, starting right there, about to go down his life, but also pair with a really good woman who he could have kids with, and then by the time he's in his 30s, he's already got like 7, 8, 9-year-old, a couple children with a good wife. Is that something you guys would push for? Or do you think that men should stay as far the fuck away from that as possible and wait till they hit those prime years of being like 35?
So the answer would be somewhere in the middle. I think it's how over time, because I think social media has ruined things so much. If you the whole thing where we talk about 33% of men having zero sexual partners, that hockey stick starts at the advent of the Facebook app on the iPhone in 2008. You can see it just shoot right up to where it was 12% of men or 16% of men with zero sexual partners, and it got up to 33. So the thing is, what's happened now is I would say it's statistically less viable, not unviable, but less viable for the 24-year-old to marry the 21-year-old and feel good about it, because by the time she's 31 and he's 30, or she's 31 and he's 34, 35, the dynamics of his relationship are going to change. He's going to make more money. He's going to see the world differently. Now, I'm not advocating he leave his wife, but now those pressures existed where they didn't exist before 2008.
Sure. So so I would push back against this strongly. So here's something that I've noticed. Okay, people ask me. So I talk to a lot of women. I do my thing or whatever. When people ask me like, what do you think is the best advice for like learning game? Okay, honest to God, the best advice is when you're like 12 to 18, having friends that are girls. Talking to women, not being nervous around them, dating in high school.
You're not going to get any argument from this
true.
show.
Okay,
That's
yeah, I don't know if
true.
you believe that or not. But honestly, that's the best time to do it. The second best time is now, right? But if you're not starting early and you're 25 and you've never even been shot down by a girl before, that's literally the scary. You could get a guy to climb the Empire State Building before asking a girl out.
So immersion from women, being around women
consistently. Yeah, and those warm spaces
Totally
where dating and everything is possible, right?
Yeah, I think Destiny said being friends with girls. I disagree. It's immersion with women. Let me also pause and stop right here. This conversation is going in a much different direction than I originally thought that it was. I think who I'm super impressed with is Destiny. I'm super impressed with Destiny and the guy next to Rollo Tomassi. They're on a different playing field within a debate. We all know that Destiny's been through a ton of different debates regarding a ton of different topics. The other guy, I've never even seen him before, but he seems to be keeping up with Destiny, and they both seem to be coming to the table well-intentioned. What they said in the beginning is that they want to get closer to the truth, and I love the volleyball match that's going between them, and I think it's highlighting a different nuance within the conversation that I wasn't even considering. I would say Destiny's like right here. The other guy's like right here as far as a ranking perspective. I'll say Rollo is third, and then Sneako is barely saying anything. So I'll say Sneako was last place right now when it comes to this. Shout out to Andy Mo. After Sneako leaves Destiny, goes into a scientific bloodbath mode, you're in for a treat. He dismantles every scientific claim Rollo uses and turns them into anecdotes. After Sneako leaves. Oh, Sneako leaves? Why does he leave? Oh, shit, let's go.
Right. But the issue is when we push on this grind set shit so hard, and now you're getting a guy that's like 32 and he goes out on a date with a girl and he wants to talk about like white papers for crypto coins. How the fuck is this guy going to be in a spot in his life where he's ready to like find a woman, settle down with a family? Like, how does he turn that on instantly?
The grind set guy doesn't mean you don't talk to women ever. It just means you're not looking to get married.
Well, one of those.
Because listen, I was a grind set guy my entire life, but I also immersed myself with women. I immersed myself with trips. I immersed myself with traveling. I immerse myself in my purpose and my grind. I did it all at the same goddamn time. You see what I'm saying? So like being a grind set guy isn't mutually exclusive to also immersing yourself with women and understanding how they think and understanding game and understanding them how to go from a date to up in the sack if that's what you're trying to do. Right? Like you can do both at the same time. I don't like when there's like this idea of red pill of that it's just one and then the other. Which one should you focus on more? Success. You should focus on utility first, but it still doesn't mean you can't talk to women at the same junction.
One of those pieces of advice like eliminate all sedations or whatever?
So what that means is like eliminate pornography,
all the bad ones,
alcohol, eliminate prescription, opioids, whatever.
How do feminist women not fall under the category of sedations?
How does what? Sorry.
Opioids, whatever.
How do feminist women not fall under the category of sedations?
What?
Feminist women.
Yeah,
feminist
how do these women, how do hoes, for example, if you're talking about porn as a sedation, drugs and everything like that.
Wait, hold up. There's a lot of feminists that are, wait, hold up. There's a lot of women who are not feminists that are hoes, my brother. there's a lot.
Women.
Yeah, how do these women, how do hoes, for example, if you're talking about porn as a sedation, drugs and everything like that, can't you group hoes directly into the category of sedation?
You mean
What are you
loose women
talking
or
about?
feminist women? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, because you're not looking for anything further than that. It's just a way to get some dopamine release and just have a little bit of fun. It's pretty much equivalent to playing a video game or watching porn. It's not anything, like maybe you learn a little bit about hoes, but you're not going to get anything out of it.
I would say the difference is that it is far more difficult for guys to use that as a sedation than it is to say play World of Warcraft all day long, or it's to go drinking.
I don't know, man.
They actually debunked Sneako's point before that because they said one of the positives of immersing yourself with women is that you can understand women more. Because the last thing that you want to be is a multi-millionaire at 50 years old, but you've never had an opportunity to talk to women. You don't even know what failure around women feels like. So along with the short-term gratification of whatever it is that you're doing with this lovely young woman, but then at the same time, you get to learn more about women. So when you are ready for that next step, you already know, along with your utility, how to talk to them in a way to garner the respect of the highest option.
Push back on that.
Sneako's over here with his Muslim stuff. And look at the Quran is right there. Apparently, he thinks that now, and it's just so crazy to me. And this is why he's got to be a lot more stronger, a lot more articulate when it comes to this new mindset that I guess is encapsulated with Islam around this grind set. Don't even mess with chicks at all. I mean, what? I don't know enough about Sneako's background regarding his girlfriends and like chicks that he's messing with and stuff like that, but it just seems so odd to me. So are you going down this holier than thou path? Are you suggesting that men not mess with fun women at all? Because I've never suggested that on my channel. My thing is that understand who that chick is, how far that you can throw her, and have fun accordingly, as long as you don't mess up the things that you have going on. And don't put these chicks on a pedestal at all. Shout out to Leon. Let me see. MTR, what the chatter said is destiny is a lie. What the chatter said is a lie. Destiny didn't dismantle anything. Okay.
I think we all know guys.
Well,
I think we all know
You're in
guys.
the gamer set. I got it.
Well, no. I'm saying I think for the girl set, I think we all know guys that have thrown their life away doing dumb girl shit. Whether you end
Sure.
up knocking
Well,
somebody up, whether you get a crazy girl.
Half the
You
reason
gotta be
shows like
disciplined,
this
though.
exist is because guys aren't fucking getting laid. That's why. So
Yeah, but I
like,
think
just-
Sneako brings up a really good point that when you say
I
eliminate.
think it's less of a I don't know, less significant than say some other forms of sedation. So when I'm talking about sedation
What's he
in the
doing?
tweet itself, people have I've said this a million times, is like if you want to actually get up and actually become something and be something better,
He
and this
was
is like
smelling
where I
Rollo's
finally
arm.
get into like something like a positivity hustle, right? It doesn't matter if you learn all this stuff, you read all my books, you do all this shit.
Okay.
None of it matters if you can't get your ass out of bed. If your shitty real life is worse than your online escape life, that's what I'm talking about. That's the
Yes.
sedation right there. So
I
could
agree
it
with
be
Rollo.
that you're a sex addict? Yeah, it can. But I would say those guys are probably far less common than the guys who are smoking weed, prescription drugs,
Yes.
pornography,
I would argue
whatever
that
else.
it's actually a worse sedation just based on the fact that you're saying get a vasectomy, because the consequences are much worse than any of the other sedations.
You're talking about sleeping around.
No, it's not no. I think he's logically getting misconstrued here. It's not sedation messing with these other women. What Rollo was saying is that it's much more difficult because many men in the West are not getting any of that sedation at all. Now, if you have a hooker fetish, right? You have a hooker fetish, and every other goddamn day you're gonna go get yourself another streetwalker. That's a whole nother thing. But these sedations, these things of short-term gratifications where you are just playing video games all day, guys. And I've heard this on my channel before. I talk about video games. I'm a gamer. I got a whole gaming channel. I love video games, but you have to balance within your life, especially if your life is not set up yet. That's essentially what Rollo is saying. W's for Rollo. I beg what Rollo is saying. Shout out to Tyrell P. Sneako may be evolving, but his maturity level hasn't gotten there to have this conversation yet. And I happen to agree with you. Let's keep on going and see if he's able to improve some of these points.
Around with a lot of women.
I mean, the consequences are much worse, obviously, because you're advocating for getting a vasectomy, because
the
you could have a kid with this girl.
consequences are worse,
It's way more expensive. It's a bigger time suck. You're going to be drinking. You're going to be in environments that aren't going to be uplifting you whatsoever. You're in clubs all the time. You're around women that you don't really like. You get angry because you have to deal with, like, Myron always jokes about how he's going bald doing the show all the time because these women will suck away your soul.
He's
and really, what's
using
the outcome of it?
false
A nut?
equivalencies.
Is that really, like, how many times did you go and fuck a girl and you're like, that was really worth the last 2 weeks of my time of texting back and forth, taking her out on dates, spending all this money, getting dressed, listening to her stupid conversation about astrology? Like, is that really something worth advocating for? How is that a better sedation
Sometimes it's fun.
than weed, than porn, than video games?
I'm the wrong person to ask. I love women. I love fucking hanging out with them. I don't have the same opinion or whatever.
I mean, I love alcohol, but I
Yeah.
quit. Like,
Yeah,
there's a lot of things.
I've never drank before. That's the other thing. I've never tried Coke, by the way. That's the other thing. So
Destiny.
I'm with you.
I would
missing out,
assume,
okay.
yeah.
But that's the thing. like sedations are great. I've done all the sedations.
Yeah.
I used to watch porn.
But
I
here's
used
the
to-
thing. Here's the thing. If you, some people could say the gym is a sedation. The thing is, if you were going to rank the
That's-
sedations, I would rather say a guy going out there and getting himself in shape, learning how to dress, learning how to talk to women, putting some bass in his voice, and actually going out socializing with other people, getting over his fear of approaching women, is a healthier sedation to me than pornography. That's
There's
just if we're
there's
going to rank
levels to this shit.
sedations.
Well, and then I was going to say, like,
He's
other people
good.
are more addicted to a certain sedation than others are. If that is significant in your life, and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm a sex addict. All I'm doing is going out and picking up random hoes all the time, and I've finally got it down to a science, and it becomes a problem, and it's like affecting other aspects of your life. Then yeah, I would say that that's a sedation that you need to like find, because it's an escape.
I think
sedations tend to be escapisms, is what I'm saying.
I think the
Yeah, like but I disagree with the brother's point right here regarding sedation of working out. Even though he said that some people might say it, to me, working out is a long-term goal towards something that you're trying to get. That's not a sedation. It's very hard to work out. It's very hard to be a boxer. It's very hard to do gymnastics. It's very hard to do these different athletic things. So I don't think that is sedation. If anything, that's like adrenaline. It's like a amphetamine. It's something that wakes you up. It gets you up in the morning, especially for men, and the amount of spirit that we have within our bodies from boyhood to manhood. Let's keep going.
contradiction that Sneako was pointing out is that, like, you're by definition you're removing from the table all the women you would want to court for marriage because you're avoiding family creation.
Nobody courts them anymore.
Well, when I say court, I mean like
I know
you're
what
dating to
saying.
get like
Yeah.
married, right? So you're removing
Yeah.
all those girls. So the only ones left are the 304s necessarily if you're trying to focus on the grind set, but then also have fun with girls on the side. So then at that point, it seems like you're engaging in women the same way somebody would engage with like weed or whatever.
But
You're
you
not
can-
doing it for like
you can date a woman you want to have kids with and not have kids with her. Like eventually have kids.
I mean-
at some point you will have
So
kids.
then the vasectomy.
So that guy, what's his name? Michael Sartain. So got you, my G. So then talk to Rollo about the vasectomy shit in the tweet. Shout out my brother Omilabu. Sneako's a very impressionable young man. I would happen to agree with that. It seems like he's shifting a lot. Once he learns a new ideology, he dives deep and he gets lost in it. Strong and intrinsic frame is valuable. Let's go.
with and not have kids with her. Like eventually have kids.
I mean-
at some point you will have
So
kids.
then the vasectomy thing doesn't make any sense.
Again,
And also,
I'm
it
not
would depend
arguing
on the
for
ages, too, 'cause if you're
vasectomy.
like-
I think it
Oh,
was
he said he's not
hyperbole.
for it.
Right,
Okay.
second. Go ahead.
I think if like you're both in your early 20s and you're like, I don't think I want to have kids till I'm 35. That's
Okay.
that's a tough
difficult
sell for a lot of
unless you-
women.
Unless you date someone who's younger. And-
Sneako, if there was a
True.
male form of birth control like Vasogel or something like that, and instead of saying vasectomy, and I
No.
said do this and take this, and it's not a permanent thing, you can always go back off of it.
No, because I think that's what we should be fighting when it comes to red pill and tradcon. That's like it's a similar common enemy that's trying to sedate us in a way. Birth control for women, it messes up their hormones, it makes them extremely argumentative. They get weird, they get on different cycles. I don't advocate you to take these pills. I tell people all the time not to get the injection. Like, why would you go and listen to these pharmaceutical companies? Why would you let them win and go play into these games and pretty much just to chase dopamine? Then you're becoming a rat for these big companies, for big pharma, when you could just like actually have like that's the point. That's the reason that sex exists, is to have children. Then you're completely removing the purpose of it, and then you're just chasing dopamine.
Can I chime in? And-
I don't agree. I do not agree. I think that he's playing a dangerous game here, right? Because if he's going down this path, then any woman in the future ever, right? Is he going monk mode? Is that what's happening with Sneako? Is he going monk mode? So Sneako's not newsflash. Sneako's not having sex until he's married. Now he's not having sex again until he's having a child. If he's going down this path. Shout out to Ivan. I can't stand Sneako. In the 80s, he would have disappeared with all he said and done. Jesus. I miss the 80s and 90s. Society as a whole was better as a whole. I don't know. I like being able to have a laptop and the ability to create YouTube videos. That wasn't around in the 80s and the 90s. I like the gig economy. I like that people are now second guessing college because of the gig economy. So I get you. There's a lot of positives regarding the 80s and the 90s. I understand. Music was goddamn better, especially in the 90s. But there are some dope things within 2023. All right, outside of the woke shit.
And just add something here real quick. So what about
Moderators.
Yes, moderator.
Plan B?
What's
Go
up,
ahead,
moderator?
go ahead.
Moderators.
Two words, Plan B.
You know, here's the thing. I will.
Shut up, Fresh! Jesus Christ! What was that? Look at Myron. Oh, hold up. You can tell sometimes Myron. You can tell sometimes Myron is like, God damn it. If I was to choose anybody to be my host, my co-host, why was it this guy? What? 2 words, he says. Plan B. That's all you got for us? That's all you got, Fresh. Jesus Christ. Latter-day Saints. Do better. Do better. Hold up.
Plan B.
What's
Go
up,
ahead,
moderator?
go ahead.
Moderators.
Two words. Plan B.
You know, here's the thing. I will. While I agree with you.
Oh,
Now today.
shit. All right. Hold on. I can't do this for forever. This is a long-ass video. Let's go back. Okay, let's go.
45. I
Look
will
at
tell
Rollo
you,
laughing.
like I would have been. I wasn't whore because nobody
L's
fucking
for
liked
fresh
me.
down
But
into the
at,
chat.
At 25,
L's
I
for
wanted to have
fresh.
sex with pretty
Go,
girls. That's
go.
what I did, and I don't feel like it ruined me. That's the only thing.
Well,
like,
so do I. Yeah, I get
words.
it every day, but there's
Plan B.
better things to do with your time and with that sexual energy.
Let me
Like,
ask you
you can
something.
focus that into becoming better. Into
Do you not think at all though that period of time helped you understand women better?
It
I'm 24. I'm
absolutely
still
Still
happening
learning
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will tell you at 45, and I used to work in nightlife, and I used to be a military officer, a bunch of different jobs. And I will tell you that like the value that I gained from having so many women in my life, not necessarily just for sex, but my ability to communicate with them now is 100. Like I do the red carpets for all these different parties, and I bring 100 girls to Bulgarian's house. Like that's what I do now
Sure.
because I'm good at doing that now.
Listen, and I think that this is important to be said on this podcast because I get the sense, and I can't remember specifically, but I get the sense that they've said before that women have no value in your life outside of sex. I get the sense. Don't quote me on that. I get the sense that that is a belief that has permeated throughout the life of the Fresh and Fit podcast. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe that I've heard that before. Shout out to Locked and Reloaded for the $20 super chat. Pure. Keep up the good work, gang. L's for Fresh in the chat. And shout out to Fresh too, because it seems like he's taking on this role of fuck it. I am the least valuable in the show, so I'm just gonna play into it. I don't give a fuck. It's still my show, bitches. It still made me a multi-millionaire, able to create my corporate job. At the end of the day, he understands his content, and he's just playing into the role. Is that false? Do they say that? True, false, LOL. I'm like reading the non-super chats now. Do they say that? They did say that. Out of context. Not MTR, that's facts. Yeah, there was an error. I don't know if they say that now, but I'm pretty sure that I've heard that they're not valuable at all, really, outside of, relationships, like inspiration, femininity. But the fact, I've talked about this before in my life too, is that like, from a business perspective, right? Like you can rely on, Fresh does bring in MTR talking about laughing. They do, but he is okay, you guys not even talking about what I'm talking about now. Let's just go.
Look back at that and I say that was a good experience for me. It didn't necessarily have to have sex with all of them,
okay.
but I do understand what you're saying. The problem is, where I differ from you and maybe from Myron is like, I don't hate being around them. I actually fucking really like being around some of them. They're fun. They're crazy and they're just fun to be around. I just don't want to marry them. You understand what I'm saying? Like that's the difference for me. It's like Juicy J says, I still love these hoes. They're for everybody, but I love them. Anyway, that's the way I look at it. I mean, maybe it's just a little different the way
you see
think.
him
Marry them in
purely as
front of the
entertainment, but I think it's better to see
But I
them.
don't hate them either. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, but you're not really. It's better to see them as people.
That's how I see them. Exactly.
You're seeing them as entertainment.
Well,
No,
no, I
I
think
don't.
the difference he's trying to point out is that you made it sound like because you said like 2 weeks of texting this bitch to get to the payoff of sex. He sounds like he enjoys the texting.
I fucking loved all
Yeah,
of it.
which I do
enjoyed-
too, right? It's fun
because
to,
for
like,
me,
hang out
I
with
was,
women,
I was
yeah.
always I was in a stage of abundance, and also my lifestyle is a little different. It's big parties that we go to, huge events.
Which is just a bigger, grander sedation. That's no different than really watching
I think
porn
it's
or playing video
networking though.
games.
Like I've met some incredible. I wouldn't be sitting here right now had I not done that. It was Andrew Tate who reached out to me, introduced me to Justin Waller, who introduced me to him, and that's how I introduced Myron. So I don't see it that
He's
way. I see it
debunking
as
all his
a
points.
goal. It ends to a means, and also the other thing is, and dude. Walt will tell you this too. Having beautiful women around you is one of the most incredible networking techniques that
Valuable.
exists.
That's true.
There's
Yeah.
an incredible book by Professor Ashley Mears at Boston University, where she talks about the guys who go to the Hamptons and the ticket to get into every party at every Hamptons house
Is a
of
bad
all the
chick.
billionaires was to have girls.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
why I'm
Of
saying.
course, that's going to lead you to a fun life.
Yeah.
But I was talking to Adam22 recently, and he has his own porn thing too. I don't know if he was allowed to
Plug talk.
Yeah, he has plug talk and everything like that. I was recently talking to him because he's been posting a lot of pictures of his daughter and stuff like that, and I always like react to them. I'm like, that's dope. Like he clearly cares about being a good father. And I had this conversation with him, and he said that after being with 400 women, doing all this show, like I asked him, like, was it really worth it all? But he's like, there's nothing better than having kids.
Yeah.
And even that's coming from a guy who's clearly been a sex addict, who did all this stuff. He went on my stream and he was talking about all these crazy threesomes, and he's like, he's very public about all this stuff. And he's saying there's nothing better than having a family and having a kid. Even this guy that's like slept with all the girls, like everybody in the chat, you watch like the top porn stars, he's been with them. And that does not compare to having a family. So yes, okay, Dan was in a
Does
party.
he regret it? Does he regret?
Yeah,
having
because
sex with foreign
one
girls?
thing could be better than something else,
but
it's still really
regret.
fun, right?
It's not about regret. It's about advocating what's best for the young male audience and for the future generation. So is it better to advocate towards vasectomy so you can go to Dan Bilzerian parties, or better to advocate like become competent men, raise a good family, have strong children, and then your life is going to be, that's the best life.
I think it's a great life. I don't know if it's the only good life. I think there's a lot of people who just don't want to have children. I think we've seen it all the time, and they're happy. The thing is, if I were to look at it from the book of Leviticus or the book of Genesis, or if I were to look at it from the Quran, you're right. That's not a great life. But I think for other people, they can enjoy life without.
The only people that don't want to have kids have been psyoped by the bigger agenda to believe that climate change and all these other external factors, that's the reason they don't want to have kids. It's all a lie. That's the reason we're here, is to procreate. That's all.
The only people that don't want to have kids are those that have been psyoped? Nah, you lost me, my G. You have completely lost me. Sneako right now is coming up right, like this is an L. I think that this is an L. No, there's a lot of people that just don't want kids. They, for financial reasons, they don't want kids from time reasons. They just want to live their own life. No, that's a comment from a young, inexperienced person. Like, what was that? L's to Sneako down into the chat. This is crazy. You know, it's crazy how, you know, the tides seem to be shifting regarding where we just were in the first conversation versus this one. And now we're getting down to the points and the actual talking points. And there's a lot of logic that seems to be falling through the cracks. Shout out to Ryoko. Sneako was trying to take small things too literal and thinking of the worst case scenario. He's switching up a lot. Sneako didn't even bring notes. So he wasn't prepared.
Animals, you're like an evolutionary.
Let me ask you this. Let's take it to the next level. Let's say you're married, okay? You found the one. You're with your girl, right? Is having sex with her without procreation, is that also an escape? Is that now a sedation? If you're not doing it to specifically have children, is it then a drug addiction?
Right, but then it becomes a unity between a mother and a father.
So how is that not an escape, though?
Because it's still always...
You're enjoying it, though, and it's not procreation. Though.
Right, but there's always the risk of procreation. Like, that's the point that you do it.
What?
There's always the possibility that
Would you use birth control with your wife if you didn't want to have kids?
No, I would never get my wife on birth control. Absolutely not.
So he's backing himself to a corner to say that the girl that he messed with, he would never have sex with. Like you would never have sex with them. That's why when I hear that, and to know that 4 months ago he was completely switched, it makes me put on my cap. It makes me put on my blue cap. Shout out to Hollow Life. They say women don't provide anything you can get from a group of men.
Condom. He's including.
Oh, you're talking about fresh and fit. Okay.
Yourself.
Any kind of birth control. Any
Vasogel, condom, whatever. Any kind of
Sure, it is a form of escapism to some extent, but it's better than spending your time with a bunch of women that you don't respect or like or even consider as really people.
Okay, I'm not trying to put you on the spot because I hear this quite a bit these days. Is like the most extreme end? I'm not saying like Islam, but like a lot of these really super orthodox Christian guys will say that any sex that is not for procreation is a drug addict, is drug addiction, or it's haram, right? Anytime you're doing something to feel good, it's a dopamine release. Any kind of is any dopamine good?
I think between a husband and wife, then it's not just dopamine. It's something that you're connecting and you're establishing a relationship that's bigger. If you just do it with these hoes, like you know that it's a one-time thing, you're thinking this dumb hoe, and then you're just gonna kick her out. You're already thinking about it.
But we're talking about sedation at this point, so
yeah, but that's a sedation. That's a different level. Like that's not a waste of time sedation. You're bonding with the partner. There's something that you're gonna create a future with this person. You're gonna see her the next day.
Maybe another way to say it is you're of one flesh now, like what it says in the Bible. And
to steal Sneako's point here, and I understand what he's saying. I think one of the problems that we've run into in society, and I think even Red Pill hits on this a little bit, is we become a society that has like taken every pleasure and reduced it down to its instantaneous like click button to get it, basically, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of reading a book, we browse TikTok. Mm-hmm. Instead of going to the theater and actually watching a movie, we're at home with a movie playing, Subway servers in the background, and like a game going at the same time, right? We have no ability to have attention or focus on anything. We've taken all of our pleasure centers and we've short-circuited them into the most immediate gratifying way possible.
Correct.
Now, that doesn't mean that all of those pleasure centers are necessarily bad. And I think from a religious perspective, when you look at how society is structured, ultimately society is kind of stemming from the structure of mother, father, children. And anything that's done in service of the maintenance of that structure is necessarily a good thing. So when you like ask Sneako, like, well, is it sedation to fuck your wife? Well, no, because sex there, even though that's the same kind of, it's the same act as having sex with a stranger, that's being done in service of unifying and strengthening the bond between father and mother that's ultimately serving as the foundation for all of society. Much the same way that nobody's going to give me props if I go to the park and play with random kids, but if I go to the park and I play with my son, people are like, oh, well, that's a really good thing to do.
You play with random kids, you might go to jail.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
As
but,
a guy,
but you're still like, you're either playing with kids or you're playing with your son, right? But it's important to do with your family because you're doing it in service of that bond of like father-son and building the family. Same thing with sex between a mother and father. Sex between a mother and father is not the same thing as random sex because that's being done in service of fortifying this institution that ultimately all of society is built upon.
Yeah,
so I think that's the difference.
And the red pill advice is 50 women. So the whole purpose is just
No,
to
that's
get
Myron's advice.
Specific advice.
Okay, but like one of the forefronts of the red pill, just get this done. It's like getting a notch it on your belt. You're going through the motion specifically. It's like doing reps and that you're treating a person like you're just getting reps done.
Yeah.
That's not that is dopamine release in its purest form. You're not trying to establish anything. The whole point is to never see her.
Myron, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think Myron's not saying that for dopamine release. He's saying that for experience, so that you don't get used by women. I think one of the things, the whole point.
Well,
of
that's
this,
why I'm equating that sex to being a waste of time.
I think if you gain some experience, and you had made the point before, is like, oh, is this going to you're going to fuck this girl and be able to tell if she's a good mom? No, but what you're going to be able to do is see the red flags before they come. You go on a date with a girl you find really attractive and she will not shut up about her ex. That's probably a good red flag. But after you've done this a few times, doesn't have to be 50 times, but after you've done this a few times, you start to see these red flags before they occur, and you're smarter, and you can help your friends out with those things. That's the only reason why I would say that.
A little bit, although I would fight on some of that advice because like you can and like you said something earlier about how the casual dating and shit that you did in your early years probably helped you with dating later on.
Yeah.
It sounds like, based on what I hear you say, that's probably true for you. But I think we could both agree there are ways that you can do it that wouldn't help you at all, right? If you go onto Tinder, you find a girl, you dinner, fuck her, never talk to her again, you could do that 50 times and arguably have less experience than a guy that's dated one woman for 7 years. Yeah. Right? Just because you never even learned.
Experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like fucking 50 women could give you a lot of insight potentially into the female psyche, I guess, if you actually spend any time with them and date them. But if it's literally just one night stand, like I don't know if you really learned anything, right?
Well, see, here's the thing though. The average North American male has had, is it seven sexual partners, six sexual partners? 7 to 9, yeah. So for him to say 50, I think that sort of is going to include that necessary experience, right? And we can debate on how worthy that experience is. I will tell you at 45, I've learned a lot about women from being around women, not necessarily just having sex with them.
I want to address like your point as well, because I hear what you're saying, because a lot of people will take the quote unquote red pill to its most logical extreme, right? So just fuck a bunch of girls. That's all it's about, right? When my very first book, there's 6 chapters in there. It's called Plate Theory. Okay. Each one of those, like when we're spinning plates, it's like you're dating non-exclusively. And if you read those, rather than just listen to what's going on online, you'll notice that the last chapter in there is transitioning out of the plate spinning, the dating non-exclusively, into something that is more monogamous at that point. But that gets thrown to the wayside because nobody reads anymore, obviously. But the fact of the matter is I think that with this, another thing that comes back on me is people say, well, Rollo just says fuck anything on 2 legs. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, in the book itself, I say, you know what? Just because you're spinning plates doesn't mean you're fucking every single one of those plates. There are possibilities. For some of them, maybe you are. For some of them, maybe you're not. But you're dating non-exclusively. And so the idea behind that is not to get your notch count up or not to validate your ego for whatever reason. It's so that you understand so you know what you want in a woman, and so you know what you don't want in a woman. Whether you fuck that woman in the first place is irrelevant. Some guys are going to do that, obviously. But I think the idea, and I've been struggling with this since the very early days when I was a moderator on the SoSwap boards, is that I think a lot of people think that it's conditioning guys or it's teaching guys to be like jerks, to be like womanizing sons of bitches. And I would say that most guys who come into the red pill are not looking to be like players. They're not looking to be guys who want to go and just like bang up as many women
just
as
the
they
majority of the
can.
commenters.
Maybe that's true. But the fact is that most of the guys, at least in my experience from working with these guys in the last 20 years, they want one chick. They want to actually kiss a girl. They're like 24, 25. in some cases 30 years old, and they've never gotten anywhere. They've never had any intimacy, never had any kind of affection. And I'm not like, sex is even out of the question. Just to have a girlfriend is why they're like, what they have been doing up to this point hasn't been working for them. So that's why they come in and they find this. Are there guys who can use the red pill so that they can go and spin plates and they can get a rotation? Absolutely. Are there guys who can use the red pill to find a wife? Absolutely. That's the beauty of the red pill. It's like I said before, it's like fire. You can use it to cook your food, and you can use it to heat your home, or you can use it to set your house on fire and set your neighbor's house on fire. It just depends on the application.
But you're acting like
W's for Rollo down into the chat. That's a huge W for Rollo. W's for Rollo down into the chat. That was a brilliant explanation. That was brilliant. That was directly on target. Directly on target. Rollo had a tough task to come into here after getting trolled on the internet, getting trolled by Destiny and Sneako, and they put his ideology into question. The vasectomy shit is still trash. It's still whack. But he says that it wasn't advice. What he said was it's a means to an end for a certain type of a lifestyle, which he didn't write in a tweet, which would have cleared the whole goddamn tweet up. But he laid out for you that you can utilize RP for a variety of different things. It's, what do they call it? Praxicology? To go many different ways within your life. So the value of having women in your past, the value of those conversations can help you get and talk to more women into the future. That's what he's saying. Sneako was saying that it's all not valuable. Why waste your time on women at all? Because they're not valuable. That's essentially what they're saying. So for me, that's a huge W for Rollo right there. Shout out for Ivan, $10 super chat. Once again, Sneako wants to say, what is a good life? I'm 30, mid-30s, no kids. Life is amazing. Facts, my G. I travel the world. I did try to have kids or be a stepdad, but women are awful. Yeah, shout out to Rollo. He came, he saw, he conquered, but in this particular portion of the conversation. And we're not seeing a lot of Sneako right here. Shout out to Uno, $5 super chat. Sneako said he slept with 100+ women. He also said he did not read Rollo's book because it was too long. He is learning off RP from TikTok and viral videos. Wow, interesting point. So I didn't realize that 100+. Shout out to Ryoku. I get what Destiny is saying, but the 50 Tinder dates is a bad example compared to 1 versus 7 years because women swipe 5% of the time. That's work. Yeah, the 50 Tinder dates, most of the times where I just swipe on Tinder, I never really swipe in order to really try to date these women. To me, it's just a time waster. It's something you do while taking a shit, to be honest with you. To me, I'll take none of them hoes seriously, especially because, having some bad catfish moments on the Tinders. Guys, make sure that you guys are video chatting before you get down into the Tinder streets, all right? Video chat them hoes first. Let go.
Like it's this really deep philosophy or praxeology. Like, is it really that complicated? Like, what if you could just describe it?
Getting experience with women, I think is pretty complicated.
How is it that complicated?
Or even on the back of that, how does it work then that you guys? I'm grouping all of you together. Maybe it's just my run.
I'm just here moderating.
Yeah. Because it seems like then, because I feel like I would consider the ultimate success red pill story then would be somebody like Ben Shapiro. But it feels like you guys really disagree. So how do you reconcile those two things? Because he's somebody who found a wife early on, got married, has a business, has a family.
Guys, what just happened is extremely important. I want you guys to listen to this again, this exchange right here.
You guys, I'm grouping all of you together.
Hold on. Pay attention.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of the red pill. It's like I said before, it's like fire. You can use it to cook your food, and you can use it to heat your home, or you can use it to set your house on fire and set your neighbor's house on fire. It just depends on the application.
But you're acting like it's this really deep philosophy or praxeology. Like, is it really that complicated?
Okay, now Sneako asked a question right here. And at first I thought to myself that this is going to be a rhetorical question, and then he was going to demonstrate how it's not that complicated. But watch what happens.
Like, what if you could just describe it?
So they say yes, it is complicated.
Experience with women, I think, is pretty complicated.
How is it that complicated?
Sneako then responds, how is it that complicated? This is an L right here in a debate scenario. Destiny picks up the pieces and tries to demonstrate why it can be complicated, or ask a question in a way to discern whether it could be complicated or it cannot be complicated by using a specific person to say, well, is this person high value? Is this person not high value? But when you posture a question that at first sounds rhetorical in nature, how is it high value? And then you don't actually answer that question of how it's high value, but you're allowing the other people to disprove you. To me, that's a bit of an L take.
Or actually, or even on the back of that, how does it work then that you guys, I'm grouping all of you together. Maybe it's just for
now
maybe it's just
Destiny is doing this.
Moderating.
Yeah.
Watch,
Because
pay
it seems
attention.
like then, because I would personally, I feel like I would consider the ultimate success red pill story then would be somebody like
He's looking
Ben
at comments.
Shapiro. But it feels like you guys
Right.
really disagree. So how do you reconcile those two things? Because he's somebody who found a wife early on, got married, has a business, has a family, seems like he's doing everything right, unless we really are saying, but he didn't fuck enough women. So how do you reconcile
No.
that?
So if it works out for him, so it's like this. What was it? Rich Cooper, who says, "Hey, don't ever date a single mother." Right? If someone comes up to Rich Cooper and is like, "Hey, listen, I know what your advice was, but I just want to let you know I'm dating a single mom, and it's worked out for me. We've been together for 10 years." Rich Cooper's not going to go, "Fuck you, stupid motherfucker. Why didn't you listen to me?" He's going to go, "Hey, congrats, man. It worked out for you." That's how I would look at Ben Shapiro. Marrying the first woman you had sex with is not unviable, but it's slightly it's out there 2 standard deviations away from the norm. Today, not in 1850, that was the norm. Today, I think it's difficult. Now, here's the thing: if we look at Steven Crowder's situation, what I'll say about this, I think Steven Crowder is. I disagree with him. I think he is a high status man. The difference,
I think so too.
the difference with Steven Crowder is, I would say that most of us in here and most of this audience, realizing you got married in the state of Texas, made that much money, and didn't sign a prenup. That was not a smart move on his part. In fact, I would even go so far, and you might disagree with me on this, if he had signed a prenup, she wouldn't be filing for divorce.
That never would have been occurred to them, though, because they're both like from evangelical cultures, and they're both like virgins, and they're like in their early mid
Sure,
to mid-20s
but then
when they did
again,
that.
look at the divergence here from the traditional versus the red pill, right? Where the red pill is like, you need to be going into this marriage, waiting for it to fail, get that prenup, do all this like
protecting yourself.
Sure, but
Yeah,
I mean,
okay, they should have called out a straw man right there. I know that was one of Destiny's things that he called out in the beginning, a straw man as a debate tactic. Because listen to what he said.
versus the red pill, right? Where the red pill is like, you need to be going into this marriage, waiting for it to fail, get that prenup, do all this.
Where you need to go into this marriage waiting for it to fail. It's about protection, right? But he's using words. He's using different words in order to say, like, from a failure perspective. But it's to protect oneself beforehand. Before you play football, you put on guards to protect yourself, just in case something happens, right? Before you go sparring, you put on headgear to protect yourself in case something happens. Right, like you're not going into it expecting that it should, because if you go into it expecting that it is, then why are you marrying the heifer to begin with? All right, pay attention.
Protecting yourself.
Sure, but I mean, like I would argue, Sneako is our Muslim expert. I won't touch your book, sorry. But like, wouldn't you argue that going into marriage is literally, again, like the union of flesh, till death do us part, etc. That if you're going in with the prenup, you're basically like doing with your fingers crossed behind your back.
So you wouldn't go in with a prenup?
Well, I personally wouldn't. I don't know if I would suggest that for other people, but I'm pointing out the difference between like the trad versus the red pill, where there's this huge schism right now in terms of advice.
So do you remember the science thing? So if 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by women, then it would de-incentivize women to get a divorce if there was a prenup. That's just scientifically the way I'm looking at it. Nobody gets into, again, 38% of businesses stay in business after 5 years, something like that. Nobody starts a business, but hey, man, 38% chance we're going to fucking make it. But if you get married, hey, you know what? There's a 53% chance that we're going to get divorced. Nobody says that.
This guy's good.
So, but why not protect ourselves? I have home insurance, but I don't intend on burning down my house, and I have car insurance, but I don't intend on totaling my car. I just don't think. I think you can still be prepared.
He's saying the exact same thing that I'm saying, but he's just using it in his own way. He's high IQ. This guy right here, high IQ.
Military officer and me, all we do is practice emergency procedures, but we don't intend on crashing. And so that's why I would do that.
I agree with you insofar as business and insurance goes. It feels a little bit different. Feels a little bit different when you're talking about marriage. Because it's not necessarily just a financial union. It is realistically part of it is a financial union.
That's the origin. The origin of marriage was a financial union.
Mm-hmm. Well, probably, but it also had to do with like family creation, I think too, right? Heavily played into it. Probably more important even than the financial union was the family creation part. It feels like I'm feeling the rift between like date to find a wife to create a family versus date this 3 or 4 might divorce you, get a prenup, get ready to, you know, she's 15 years younger than you. It seems like there's that big divergence of qualities around the marriage part. Like I'm curious for both of you, you guys can answer. Like Sneako, what is like your ideal path in life? If you could be like striving towards an ideal, when does the man get married and have a family? And then you two, like when do you think a man should get married and have a family? Like in general, knowing that there's going to be exceptions, but in the Western world.
We can go to Sneako first.
I would say late 20s to early 30s. And a part of the reason why I reverted to Islam is I see it as the only logical way to get around the boredom aspect that the Red Bull talks about, because men always get bored. Men always want variety, and there's an ethical way to do it. See, if you have multiple wives, then you're not just spending time with these girls knowing that you're going to go never see them again and you're just using them for a body count. If you have multiple wives and you love them equally and you're providing for them and they're getting something out of it, and then you get past that variety problem that a lot of guys have, and you also the women are going to act more in your favor if they're in a sense competing with one another to make sure that they're providing for the husband.
How do you handle this?
Another reason why I think that Sneako was highly impressionable is because didn't Andrew Tate become Muslim or start practicing Islam a couple of months back? And now Sneako is following suit as well. I don't know. I'm riding for Sneako on the heel turn face. But like as I start to think about different things and knowing that only like 3-4 months ago his tune was completely different, it's just odd for me. But at the same time, I keep on forgetting that Sneako's only 24. When I was 24, Jesus, he might actually be doing better than me at 24 and considering different concepts regarding myself. So I can't get on his case, but for so much.
Legally, I mean, bigamy is.
I would not get married legally. I don't recommend anybody in the West get married. I think we've seen it fail over and over again. I just don't think. But I would get
family
married.
creation without legal marriage.
But you can get married religiously.
Yeah,
you can have the ceremony. I think a lot of girls would like to have the ceremony. They want to get the dress with the pictures in the ring, but they don't need to have the actual contract. And I think for a lot of guys that if they would just logically explain that to their woman, they would have to agree. Just look at all the failed marriages. You look at the divorce rate.
I kind of disagree there. Like if she's a stay-at-home mom, then I understand why she would want to get married in front of the state. I absolutely understand it. Because if I just want to leave, then you came in here not doing anything to gain talent in the world. You were gaining things to gain talent for me in the family. Then I just leave your ass. And you went all of that time with the opportunity cost of me, and you were gaining no skill sets in that time. So I understand why a woman in that particular type of lifestyle would want to do that. Shout out to the super chat. Shout out to Ryoko. If you think Marco Sartain doing great now, he bodies more topics later on with studies and data, you're in for a treat. I think Michael MVP in this debate. Yeah, I am banging with him. You know what I'm saying? Pause. Jesus. Just cut out. Just edit out that last 10 seconds. Hey, yo. Shout out to Dejon Blanton. Big shout out to you, bro. Would love to have a convo with you someday soon. Shout out, brother. Appreciate the $5 super chat. Pause.
Let me caveat that.
Do you guys agree with that? When guys should get married? To just summarize,
I've already actually put that in my book. So it's like don't even consider monogamy until you're 30 years old.
You would agree with that?
At least 30, man. Okay. I would say at least 30. Yeah.
So y'all are in agreement about when they should get married. Yeah, I guess they might say get expensive plates in the process to do so. You're saying minimize that.
I mean, I would argue for a trad spot. I think you would argue for earlier than 30, right? Because you want to have children to have fun with when you're in your vibrant stages in life. Like having a teen.
Yeah, if Sneako says 30, that means you're a man virgin up until 30. Help me out here, Sneako. I thought with this new lifestyle, he would have said like 21, 22. Men should get married at like 21, 22. Get out the gate, try to find the best option, lock her down, make her convert from Christianity or atheism to Islam, make her convert. But he said 30? What? I'm not supposed to be talking to chicks until I'm 30, my G. See, a lot of his arguments are beginning to noodle under the pressure of debate.
We're pretty
violent. Mid to late 20s, early 30s. It depends for a lot of people.
Sure.
Yeah.
We say 30s. Like if you have a kid when you're like,
we're pretty vibrant.
No, I understand. But like when you have a kid when you're like 35, 36, and now they're in their teenagers years, and you're like in your 50s, right? Okay, it's not necessarily the same type of vibe as you have a kid.
So Sneako, you're again.
It will be for me. You understand what I'm saying? Because I stay into the gym. You know what I'm saying? I take my vitamins every day. I drink my water. I'm gonna be I'll be ready. What's up, son? You want to go play football again? Let's go. I'm going to be a solid 60 years old out there like, what's up? Like Joe Montana and this bitch.
And guys spinning plates and or having premarital sex with girls prior to, obviously, the relationship.
I just see it as a waste of time to just be spending your time with hoes and saying that that's not a sedation.
Okay.
Like that's the one component that the red pill's missing, is that they see it as experiences. You're getting better. It's part of being a high value man, is having a huge body count. I see that as actually a worse sedation than porn, than video games, than all this other thing, because not only
no, Sneako, you're tripping. There's some true sedations from beginning to end. They are true sedations. So like, if you play 3 hours of video games a week, video games are not a sedation. If you play 13 hours of video games a day, then video games are a sedation.
is it just going to waste your time? But the risk factor is extremely high, and the solution that is offered to become this high value man that the Ripple talks about is getting a vasectomy, which is not even the quickest solution.
Balance
because,
and moderation.
Again, hyperbole, but
yes, hyperbole. He was so the thing is, you guys remember the story of the Buddha, right? He goes off and he's a prince. He's an Indian prince, and he's never seen a dead person. He's never seen a sick person. He goes out for the first time and he sees the sick, the poor, the dead. He comes back and he freaks out, and he finds enlightenment under the lotus tree, and he tells everyone to get rid of all of your personal possessions and all this kind of stuff. But it's really easy to say that when he had a fucking harem before he said it. When you interviewed Bilzerian, he's like, oh, having sex with all these girls isn't that big of a deal. It's really easy to say that after you had sex with all those girls. If we say this, Sneako, to other dudes, they're going to sit there and listen to us and be like, hey, let me fuck these girls real quick first, and then let me learn this lesson on my own. That's the problem.
Yeah, men learn from experience.
For sure. I will tell you, you are 100% right. It was a sedation for me, and I fucking enjoyed it.
Yes.
I'll tell you that also.
Great
so that's
point.
the problem.
He's
The thing is, while we say that, and I agree with what you're saying, and I think you're setting a good example, the problem is men are still men. Men are always going to be more interested in casual sex than women are. The 37 culture study done by Dr. David Bussin, all 37 cultures, men were more interested in casual sex than women are.
That's true. But then you have to think about...
Yeah, you walk up to a chick at a college campus and you, right, like the chick walk up to you and ask you to go bang out, like 90% of dudes would probably be like, yeah, let's go. You walk up to a chick on a college campus and you just ask her to go bang, she's probably gonna call the cops on you. Shout out to Contextual Messages with a $20 super chat. What up, MTR? Just listen to the podcast earlier. I request your input on what I believe Destiny specifically stated he wanted everyone to base their comments on. Science. However, on multiple points, he does the latter. Okay. Hopefully that's coming up here in a couple of minutes. Shout out, brother. Appreciate the $20 super chat. Pure. Shout out to Andy Mo. Sneako is so outclassed here. Wait for the alpha topic to begin. IQ of the debate will shoot to the moon. Dope. I can't wait to that portion of the debate. Shout out to Low B12 with a $10 super sticker. First time super sticker. Appreciate you, mama. I believe that's a woman. My apologies if it's not. I don't know. The picture is very small. Shout out to Young Mooj with a $20 super chat. In Islam, it's recommended that families help their sons, daughters find spouses. If a person feels like they cannot control their urges, it's incumbent on them and their parents to get them married religiously. I will say I am not very in tune or up to date with Islam at all. And I wonder what a lot of Islamic podcasters think about this particular conversation, as well as male content providers as well, right? Because it sounds like from an RP perspective, there's a lot of things that people who believe in that faith would agree in, but that's my uneducated feeling and not necessarily something that I can necessarily back with examples and talking points, right? So like maybe that's a future video I'll do, is to look at different Islamic content creators and see their feelings regarding RP or just podcasts like this, like Fresh and Fit. Let's go.
Like, because we all have a platform, like what's the best advice to give out to the masses? Because if you're saying
for me statistics is the best advice. The truth is the only thing that I care about. I don't amoral, like you said before, because the problem is that the Overton window consistently shifts to the left, and no matter how much I as a Christian want it to go back to the right, I know that unless other than I can think of maybe Afghanistan recently in 1979 in Iran, I can't think of a single society that shifted back to the right in the last 50 years.
Okay, but then you're creating a bunch of men that are victims of that system and that are just playing parts of this leftist system instead of trying to create people.
I don't think it's leftist, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
I think you also have to be careful. Our advice can't be statistics, because I feel like one of the things you argue against as red pillars is just being a statistic, right? Like you could argue if you're listening to your man should kill yourself because statistically speaking, men kill themselves more than women, but that's not a good argument, right? Like in some senses,
we have to give a prescription, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Like you don't want to just be a statistic, right?
Well,
because statistically speaking, what percentage of marriages end in divorce? What percentage is women initiated? Right? You want to try to find a way to rise above, right?
I guess maybe a better way would be like, here's my prescription, but they come with the statistics, and this is the reason why. And none of them are based on my feelings. They're always going to be based on other statistics.
Numbers.
So I would say, for instance, if I were to say 78% of divorces are initiated by women, that would be my prescription would then be to get a prenup. But it's based on that statistic.
Yeah,
Great
for sure.
answer.
But it could also be like, well, here are the most common reasons for divorce. Try to remedy these before they become an issue.
That's another great statistic, though. You're being a statistic for a prescription.
But the feeling is, what do we express at the end of the day, right? It's the difference between history and historiography, right? If we want to tell the story of World War II, we're not going to talk about every single soldier in the war. We're going to focus on, the leaders. We're going to focus on the big battles. Same thing with statistics, right? It's what is it? Statistics don't lie, but liars use statistics. You can arguably use statistics to tell almost any kind of story you want, depending on how you massage your numbers and depending on what side you present. But it's our choice to choose what we want to present to the people, which is what we tell them to do. Also, one thing I would say on the marriage stuff, because I hear this a lot. I don't know how many of you guys talk about this or get into this a lot. You have to be really careful with the live with a woman but never get married. One, it's because some states have something called common law marriage, which I hope most of you guys are familiar with, right?
Yeah,
so you might not think you're
Texas,
married.
I don't believe has it, but yes.
Shout out to Israel Adesanya. We learned a couple of days ago of the concept of de facto relationship. If you were living with them for over 3 years, and there's some other criteria as well, apparently they treat it just like that you were married. And what I say in that particular video, we all think that it's crazy of what it is that she's doing, but from a law perspective specific to New Zealand, she might have a goddamn case. Shout out to Ivan Jr. yet again with the $50 super chat. Pure. MTR, last live, you said something I wanted to personally say. You are appreciated. Thank you, my brother. Other YouTubers do react to you. You are heavy in this arena. I've been watching you for 4 years. Shout out, bro. Sneako was using the Quran to undo his cuckoldry image. A new student can't be a professor. Maybe that's why, I think another super chat said that he left. Maybe that's why that he left early. I don't know. I don't know what portion that he leaves this conversation, but maybe, we could get some insight regarding that and dissect if he left because of that. Yeah, he still got the Quran right there. But I appreciate that, brother. You are now the sponsor of today's stream with the $50 super chat. So thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that. Shout out to Dow, $10 super chat. Once a man is 40 plus, the acute health crisis men face increase with each year, from prostate cancer, testicular cancer, stroke, etc. The runway of your life may not reach wedding of your children. Yeah, that's true for men and women. As people get older, a health crisis increases. The chances of a health crisis do increase. Shout out to W Modern Welfare, $10 super chat. If beauty is in the eye of the beholder, then high value is in the eye of the beholder as well. Why? Why are those two things? Why are you equating beauty? It's because beauty, men judge women by beauty, and high value. Are you saying like what's the why? That's like saying, if the sky is blue, then the ground is red, right? Like those two statements together in conjunction, there's not a logical reason to bring those two together and say that, well, if one is true, then the other one must be true as well. That logically, I'm a little bit confused there, my brother. Our peers defining the standard of high V is the same as the Kardashians defining the standard of beauty. You lost me, brother. You took two statements and combining them together as if one is true. One being true makes the other one true as well. But appreciate your $10 super chat as well. So if you want to clear it up, you know what I'm saying? Let me know. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah. I think Texas.
No, Texas does. I'm sorry, Nevada doesn't have it.
Yeah.
You're right.
Be very careful with that, because you might find you're getting a divorce notice from a woman you never agreed to marry. So one, be careful with the common law thing. And then two, I do believe that one of the reasons, we don't have to get too deep into the divorce stuff because I might come later, but one of the reasons women probably want some sort of like formal contract is because, you know, while there might be some love and children, all of that, there is also money and career being left on the table too, depending on
That's
the
what I
arrangement.
said earlier,
If you're telling
yeah.
a woman like, hey, we're going to fuck, we're going to have kids, and I love you and I love that and I love our family, you're going to stay here and take care of the kids while I go and I continue my career. When
Yeah.
we split, if we get divorced in 10 years, I didn't lose shit financially. Because my career has been fine. I've been working the entire time, and now you're stuck being a full-time caregiver. You might have given up your career to do it. So I think it's reasonable for the woman to say, much the same that a man might say, I want a prenup, you know, just because we get divorced and you're taking half my shit. The woman could also be like, okay, I understand that, but if we end up getting divorced and I'm throwing away a decade of my life to take care of your fucking children, our children, I want some kind of financial assurance too. I think that's fair.
And you're aware that certain prenups are thrown out exactly for the reason you just said.
Depending on how egregious they are, or the state of the people writing them, or if both sides had representation, there's a lot of some prenups do get thrown out, but not all of them, right? Yeah.
Okay, real quick. This has been great. I'm going to read some of these chats real quick, and we're going to kill the Facebook and the Twitter stream. So, guys, come on over to YouTube right now. Like the video on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and also all the guys' links are below. Follow Destiny on YouTube. So, check out Sneako on Rumble. Check out Mike Sartain and the Access Vegas podcast on his channel, as well as Rollo Tomassi on the Rational Mail. I'm reading only $100 super chats and up, guys, so that I can make sure that we keep this thing nice and succinct. We got.
Okay, we're gonna skip the super chat. Shout out to Brian, $10 super chat. The crux of RP is for men to put themselves before a woman who isn't yet committed to them. But the crux of RP is for men to put themselves before a woman who isn't yet committed to them. Work out and show young men the nature of Western women. How is that bad? Shout out Brian for the $10 super chat. Shout out to Low B12 yet again for the $5. Yes, woman, not hoe or heifer. Love your content. I've seen this guy guest at whatever podcast that came with Rollo. He's great. Oh, shout out. Yo, I got to do a live stream reaction to the whatever podcast as well. Shout out to Alejandro. In Islam, the Prophet married a child. She was 6. Is that true? God damn. All right. Let me go forward in this conversation. Let me skip their super chat so we can get right into the content.
Platinum Elite. Low.
Oh, shit. So does he leave then?
Don't worry, we got Platinum Mail. And also, all the guys' links are below. Follow Destiny on YouTube. So, check out Sneako on Rumble. Check out Mike Sartain and the Access Vegas podcast on his channel, as well as Rollo Tomassi on the Rational Mail. I'm reading only $100 super chats and up, guys, so that I can make sure that we keep this thing nice and succinct. We got Platinum Elite going. The Red Pill has flaws.
So thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Oh, you gotta go?
Oh, you gotta go?
Hey, come to Vegas.
He's going to Vegas.
Yeah, seriously, come to Vegas.
Come to
Man,
Vegas.
Come to Vegas. Don't worry, we won't take it in any clubs.
Hey,
I'll take it some
let me tell you something. There's gonna be some
I'm the married
distractions.
guy.
Do they have
Remember,
any mosques in Las Vegas?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, man.
Let's go.
You're in. You're
right.
on.
This guy's Sneako,
Okay,
man.
bro.
Have fun with your new friend, your closer friend. Okay? Bye, buddy.
El Sneako.
Got some distractions.
No more plan Bs, bro.
Yeah. The Red Pill has flaws, but it is so much better than being a beta simp. Marriage is at an all-time low. You don't have to have money to get women, just confidence. Most men will never earn $120,000 a year. Just learn game. Okay. We got here Deal saying outstanding show, Myron and Fresh. Well done, brother. Salute to Destiny, Sneako, Rollo, brother Myron, brother Michael. Why did you join the army? You would have made one hell of a paratrooper airborne. Keep leading from the front.
I'm going to be, you know what? Everybody on the podcast, I got to think to myself, like, let's say I had a podcast. Generally, I'm on the podcast for the entire length of the podcast, and I didn't tell anybody, and I didn't come late like what Fresh did. They all were joking on Fresh was coming late, and I didn't tell anyone in the podcast that I had to leave early or there was some type of appointment or something like that. My spidey senses is that, you know, he just didn't feel comfortable there because of the way the conversation was going.
In contention.
Well, it's that's a iron rule Tomassi number 4. You know, it's
you
like
say
it's
don't live
shacking
with a
up.
woman and you.
But I will also say that, you know, even after all of the bullshit in the first round, the first conversation, that they shook hands, Rollo and Sneako. So maybe you will see them out there in Vegas. But if I was to take a guess, I would say that he left because of he's not talking a lot in the conversation. Most of his points got debunked. There's a clear switch in the way that he thinks about things, as what he is now with this Islamic thought process, and he's not versed enough to hold weight underneath his points, right? Like, so I would say between the two sides, right? Like the Rollo and the Sartain side, to me, is taking the W so far. A lot of what Destiny has been doing is just asking a lot of questions to clarify things, but not necessarily disproving or debunking anything that I've heard over here. And then Sneako just didn't have a lot of oomph within his strikes as well. And in fact, some of the times he referred back to, you know, being called a deuce nozzle or getting made fun of or this, that, and a third. Like, it was just, you know, really wasn't a good showing. Now, I will also say that, guys, this setting right here, unless you have a lot of experience, which we all know Destiny does, is a very difficult setting. It's a very difficult setting. So I give credence to that, okay? But within that, you know, I don't think he did that well.
You disagree
I'm
with
saying
that,
don't
correct?
live with the woman unless you plan to marry her within the next 6 months. Because what happens, and the reason why that I put that in the book in the first place is because there's a rash of guys who just get together and they want to live with their wives or their girlfriends, right? In that situation, they think, oh, it's great. You know, we'll get rent paid. And then I'll have, sex with the utilities, you know, I'll have hot and cold running water and I'll get laid when I want to. And what happens is these guys will go and put their name on a lease with that woman. And then things didn't work out for them. But the woman, her impression is, well, he wouldn't be signing this lease for a full year unless like he was really, really serious about me. Mm-hmm. And so essentially you lose all leverage. You lose all the urgency. You lose the nature of the sex goes down. The frequency of sex goes down. That's actually why that's why I made that a rule. So
do you disagree with that, living with a woman?
Yeah, completely. I don't know how much you want to go on this topic.
Go ahead. Please take it.
Oh,
I don't know how that relates to
is it fresh in
divorce,
Destiny now?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I feel like living, if for no other reason, I think living with somebody is nice because splitting bills is really nice. You brought up something interesting. I'm not familiar with this research directly, but I'm going to extrapolate based on what I do know. You mentioned that around 2008.
Is it fresh in Destiny now? Well, I guess Fresh doesn't agree with the points that Sneako was making, so it can't be, right? He's just taking up a seat space. Shout out to Ivan again. If Sneako was real about the Quran, he wouldn't do those shows and support Aiden Ross. Can't claim purity and support immoral acts with Aiden. Okay, I know who Aiden Ross is, but I don't know what exactly you're referring to.
When absent.
What's interesting about this is that when Rollo called in, it was 1v2, and now it's 1v2 on Destiny. Interesting.
And
Chris,
iPhones
can
and
you
all this
pull that
stuff.
up? It's really easy to find. It's the GSS survey. It's in the University of Chicago, I think. Did it? Do you remember who did that? The one that shows that 33% of men with zero sexual
Oh yeah,
partners.
and by the way, that's like we keep like using that over and over again. I see Adam Sosnick quote this all the time, but it's like there's so many others like data points in that survey.
This is something that I'm going to bring up because and you guys are all old enough to remember something else really big happened in 2007, 2008.
The subprime mortgage crisis.
Holy fuck. And one of the biggest indicators for men being able to get out and get married and have sex and everything is having your own place.
Yeah.
And our ability to work, holy fuck. If you were working at the time, you saw benefits and pay get cut like none other. It was hard to find jobs. Housing became completely fucking unaffordable.
Not for me.
In 2007, buying a house from that point on became very, very, very difficult for the next few years. So it wouldn't surprise me if virginity rates or not, it's not virginity actually, but not having a sexual partner rates probably grossly increased for that year because everybody was stuck at home.
So
which made it really hard to find.
While I agree that may be a part in the beginning, if you look at the scale, it starts in 08 and it ends in 18.
Sure.
At 18, it gets up to almost 30%. So or from 2015 to 2018, I don't think that has anything to do with the subprime mortgage crisis. I think it has way more to do with the phone and specifically Dunbar's number. What's happened is these people now have unlimited options, whereas their brain was developed through evolution for 150 people. Now they have options to everyone and everything they can see. They message Drake. Drake messages them back. They fuck Drake. And now the girl thinks that Drake is the baseline for what she can date. And now the next guy who's alpha widowed after that has to deal with that. And I know it may seem like it's anecdotal. I just see this hundreds of times where girls will say, yeah, I was dating so-so and an NBA player. And you've probably seen this too. And you're like, no, you fucked him once. You're not dating him. I know his wife. You got to fuck a couple of times.
They wear like a badge of honor.
It skews the data set so much to where you have women and they come on these shows and they're like, hey, I'm a 10 and this is what I deserve. And you're like, wow, this is crazy. I get it that you fucked an NBA player, but like now you've confused yourself into thinking like this is what the world is going to be like for you. Social media led to that, and I
Yeah.
think it's specifically Dunbar's
Can
number.
I
think-
can I
go ahead.
clarify, because I know where you're going to go with this. But only before you get there, because I'm going to hit on you for 1 second here, because this was you.
Damn.
So
He's coming for the Dubai number. Oh, shit.
That 30%. So and because I want to clarify this, because I think this will just save us some time here. So like you were on the show here, and you guys were having this back and forth about like what's the percentage of college co-eds are getting flown out to yacht parties with Drake or NBA players and stuff like that. And you guys said 30%. Hey, I'm like,
Yeah, that shit was trash.
No, it's not 30%, but it's not who's actually being flown out there. It's the perception that those girls saw that other bitch got flown out there. And so the possibility exists, at least in that woman's sort of hindbrain, that could happen to her. And so therefore the perception of it affects that local sexual marketplace, because if the girl thinks that might happen, she's gonna like put off these other guys, like real guys, on the off chance that maybe somebody is going to fly her out somewhere else. So, and by the way, that's just one isolated incident. So when we're talking about perception online, like the one thing you want to talk about, like 2008 up to where we're at
Chris,
right
I just
now,
sent the chart
it's
to you.
the perception of opportunity. It's the perception of abundance. It's the perception of a overinflated sexual market value as a result of seeing all these women who like women think are comparable to them, and they're getting that treatment. So the possibility exists that they could get it too.
So for everyone who doesn't know what he's referring to, there was another podcast where Destiny was on and was debating all of these different red pill versus blue pill topics. And Destiny asked Myron as well as Fresh, yo, how many women do you guys actually think are getting flown out to Dubai? And then Fresh said something ridiculous like 30%. So what Rollo was doing here is called Fresh out on his podcast and said, no, it's not 30%, my young man. But what we need to consider is the perception. Let's say that it's 1%. And then the other 29% are perceiving their values different now because they see the 1% it happening to. I don't know. I have to think more about what that is to see if I agree or disagree within that. For sure, there's some bleed there, right? If you see your homegirl going to get flown out, then there's some bleed to your own perception. If she's doing it, the belief that you be able to do it would be increased, especially when you have these women that are unwilling to tell other women the truth regarding their actual level degree of beauty. Shout out to the super chats that are coming in. Hold up. Am I missing? Oh, shit. Shout out to Zentians with the $100 super chat. My brother. He used to troll me on my gaming channel. All crazy. You thought I forgot, my G? Sponsor of today's show. Destiny's argument on what a true alpha versus beta male is disingenuous. He fails to acknowledge the fact that the greater investment is from the beta for the same sexual access with the same outcomes as evidenced by numerous guys raising kids that aren't theirs. Pure. Shout out to Zetius coming through with the bars. Appreciate you, my G. Shout out to Fungi Film Reviews. What up, brother? Tried to tell you last week about being off on this and you dissed. Huge mistake by creators like yourself thinking Rollo lost and that not he was saving Sneako this embarrassment you're about to see. Here's the thing. Rollo absolutely lost that first conversation. For you not to think that Rollo did not lose that first conversation, and simply he lost it by not holding frame. Listen, let me tell you guys something. When I want to say like maybe 11 or 12 years old, right? Puberty had hit. Testosterone was beginning to feel my tiny little body, my tiny little underdeveloped, prepubescent, goddamn skinny ass little body. And I would get angry over things that would just happen. And I remember my pops telling me one time we were talking about something that turned into like an argument, if that's what you want to call it. And I got so angry regarding something. And my pops looked at me and he said, you're the smartest kid in the world until you get angry at things. And once you get angry at something, everything that you said just doesn't make any sense. And it shook me to my core because I was trying to think like of the things that I've just said in this emotional state. Did it really make sense? And it was a categorical no. I think him getting angry in a situation killed a lot of the particular points that he would have said. Now, at the same time, though, I will say that you calling Rollo a W in this conversation, which I think that, yes, he is a W, but I think it's the bleed effect from this guy. This guy, I'm just getting introduced to him, is a wizard behind the mic. He's a debate wizard. He's really good. And maybe he's not a debater, but he's a really good conversationalist and really knows this topic extremely well. So take that as what it is. But shout out Funky Phil for the 11 Canuck bucks, my G. Shout out to Instinctual Messages with a $20 super chat. Not sure if you noticed, but earlier Destiny specifically stated, let's not just base on statistics. Okay? When statistics are literally a part of science, by definition, his number 5 rule at the start says, use science. He did say that. I appreciate you picking up on that. Very astute. Thank you, Instinctual Messages. Shout out to Zentius again with the $50 super chat at Christian Packard. Okay, that's someone down in the chat. I respect Destiny holding his own here, but I don't respect his stances on relationships because he doesn't state his advantages are from money and clout. Oh, because I think that he's married to, is it an OnlyFans young lady? I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Is it sex worker or something? Or is he in an open marriage or relationship with someone else who has a platform? Is that what it is? I think that's more accurate. Respect is earned, and Destiny's actions haven't warranted my respect yet. Hey, here's the thing. I could not do what Destiny's doing. I don't know if that's just based off of a kink that he particularly has, but it's probably not because it's he's married to the young lady, like sharing assets with the young lady. I wonder, is she a successful streamer or not? I don't know. I'm sure there's videos that you can watch and get all this information. I haven't watched those videos because he is super popular on the internet. Shout out to Zentius for the $50 super chat. Yeah, his lifestyle is not something I would suggest either. So let's get that out the way. Shout out, my brother. I appreciate it. Let's go.
Hopefully that shortens things
Yeah,
up a little
so
bit.
I understand this theory, but I disagree with it completely. But I don't know if we want to go, because I think we're going to get back into this later. Do we have a particular topic we want to talk about, or do you want to talk about dual
Yeah, we
mating
can hit. We
preferences?
can hit. Yeah, because
I think it's a good segue.
I
Yeah,
think
'cause
that
that's gonna come
that
to
ends
this,
the
yeah.
vasectomy discussion
Yeah.
right there. I wish we kept going there. But okay, we could go into dual mating strategy, and in this case, it's going to be the
Okay.
classic alpha fucks, beta bucks, the dual mating strategy of women that basically, you know, they have
This
sex
is-
to go into heat with that
this
really
is
tall,
Rollo's piece right
nice
here.
looking guy, right? The Chad,
I
and
would
then they
assume.
go
I don't know. I
ahead and
didn't
get
read
with
the
the other
book.
guy for his resources, the beta bucks. on the
Can,
side.
can I reset this from a scientific standpoint?
Yeah,
So
go ahead,
this is in The Evolution of a Desire by Dr. David Buss. In that original copy, it's called the dual mating strategy. Later on, when he writes the book When Men Behave Badly, he changes his opinion to what's called a
Mate switching
strategy. So, and the
Okay.
reason why he does that is because they do a survey and find out that 83% of women who cheat on their husbands fall in love with their affair partners. It is below 30% for men. So something that statistically difference would
Interesting.
show that when women cheat, it is to find a new head coach. When men cheat, it's to rearrange the roster. So that's essentially what.
I got to read that book. He said Dr. David Buss. I love that right there. It makes so much sense. You know, which is why that talking point right there goes into when women challenge, you know, men stepping out, and the difference of that between when women step out. It's completely different. When men step out, it's for physical interactions to rearrange the roster. When women step out, 30% of the time, according to that study, is because they're looking for a new leader of the pack. Shout out to Hollow Life. He has an open marriage, which she started with a woman he got a green card and made famous. What? So they were married, and then she started by messing with another woman? Like in a relationship? Or like, you know... this is going to bring us off topic. Shout out to Christian Packer with a $5 super chat, who's now talking to Zentians. Spent money to respond to me, and I feel like a need to repay the debt. Much love, FTR. Appreciate it. Repaying the debt. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do over here.
What he's saying with that whole thing. Now, Rollo and I actually disagree on this a little bit. I believe more in the mate switching strategy. He has mentioned before about the dual mating strategy.
Okay.
The thing is, I don't think it's 100% one way or the other.
They can coexist.
There's too many women that I know that are absolutely have a sugar daddy while fucking Brock the bartender at the same time. And so, again, it's just anecdotal. It's not statistic.
The
But
bartender.
I think both of them exist. Whether or not
He's
it's
good.
85-15 or 50-50, I'm not really sure.
Okay, this is going to be a really important center point for this discussion because, in my opinion, almost all of Rollo's praxology is going to be built off of this alpha fucks, beta bucks idea.
Let's get in there.
A ton of stuff. Hypergamy is built off of it. The way the relationships work are built off of it. You know, what men and women are after. The dual sexual
Someone said Sneako got sneaky and snuck out.
strategy. So you guys are not in congruence with how you feel on that. You
Let's go.
disagree.
The difference is, so we'll just say Alex the alpha and Bobby the beta. She's dating Bobby the beta. Now the question is, in both strategies, she fucks Alex the alpha, but in one of them, she fucks him to leave because she's dissatisfied with Bobby the beta, and in the other one, she fucks Alex the alpha to get his genetics and stays with Bobby the beta.
The relationship.
Sure. So the underlying question then is, do you believe that women biologically are employing the dual sexual strategy?
Subconsciously, yes, because men do this. Again, the converse for men would be the 40-year-old guy, 50-year-old guy who goes through midlife crisis. I don't know if you've seen these studies. When women go through menopause, that's when men go buy the Ferrari. They've shown this, like, men can actually sense when women go through menopause, and so that would be the same. That would be the equivalent for men. So yes, do I think women do it? I think they do it subconsciously, and I think it's strictly because of their evolution.
Okay.
And Michael?
Go ahead.
Oh, here's the.
Who is this guy?
Yeah, you see from 2008 to 2018, it shoots up to 28% of men.
This guy needs to
Chris
write
Williamson
The
had a
Rational
comment
Male
before,
Part 2. He is good.
or he thought it was in the 40s now. He thinks that number has gotten up even higher. So that ended at 2018, but that's a pretty
Oh, wait, let's take a look. The share of men and women between ages 18 and 30 reporting no sex in the past year. Okay, we knew this already, and it got up to 30% of men between 18 and 30 of no sex in the past year. Okay.
statistically viable number right there to go from 16% to 28% in the course of 20 years.
And I should also point out that that's one demographic cohort, the 18 to 30. If you go beyond that, it still tracks. It's just not as like significant.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious how much that correlates to housing prices, because I know that like housing has become like
correlate to housing prices. Let's take a look. 2008. And then it's more of, oh shit, it looks like it does actually it correlates with the recession and the increase of housing prices. I mean, you know, but saying correlate as like a mathematical equation is different than saying correlate of how much that it's related.
Yeah, I'm curious how much that correlates to
make
housing
sense?
prices, because I know that like housing has become like increasingly unaffordable, and a lot of the issues for people
not
moving.
having a place helps you not get laid. 100%, yes.
And married, it's a very big success indicator for a successful marriage as well. So
Or
into the dual
unable to buy a hotel room because you know
mating hypothesis. So firstly, I want to ask, what is an alpha male to you guys?
Okay.
Right. So would you admit, like when we talk about, and we're going to start from the taxonomy here, elephant bull.
Do you guys notice that Rollo is not talking? I mean, in that whole ass of the dual mating strategy versus the switch mating strategy, it's only that Sartain guy. And even just asking about alpha male, it's a Sartain guy.
Bull seals, tigers, lions,
Silverback gorillas.
In those cases,
Wait, hold up. I missed what they said. Also, shout out to Fungi Film, 11 Canuck Bucks. This whole conversation is a dub for men. I agree with you. This entire conversation is a win for all men. Just like I said when I started off this stream. Shout out to Fresh and Fit for even conducting this, because they got a lot of shit about just bringing up chicks to just dunk on them, right? They don't get a lot of credence for their financial streams, their real estate streams. They don't get a lot of credence for that because most of the numbers go towards the after hours. But they just had a stream of all guys debating each other that had over 30,000 people in it. That's a win. That's absolutely a win for the space. Absolutely. And what Destiny thought what Red Pill was, okay? You'll see something epic coming up. Disagree on your initial Rollo, but big bro not punching little bro back. Shout out, my brother. Let's keep it rocking.
would you admit, like when we talk about, and we're going to start from the taxonomy here, elephant, bull seals, tigers, lions,
Silverback gorillas.
In those cases, would you admit that there is an alpha male, at least in those in biology in those cases?
Yes.
Again, it's okay.
Yes.
So we understand that there is something. So here's where the confusion comes.
Okay.
If I'm having my birthday party, I've noticed whenever I have my birthday party, I get more attention from my friends and from women in general because they see other women paying attention to me. In that moment, contextually, I am alpha. When we leave that and we go into a club to watch Calvin Harris, all the girls now stop paying attention to me. They see Calvin Harris go on stage. He is now contextually alpha. That's how I define alpha male. I don't know if you.
Wait, let me catch that. What was the definition there? Like, what is? And I'm not trying to get you in, like, what is a? Give me 16 words. Like in general, like, what is an alpha male?
Yeah.
Actually, I'll give you my perspective.
Yeah,
This is
go
what
ahead.
I'm confused on, and then you can talk around this. Okay. My confusion is. So earlier we agreed that I think high value men are people in general that can partition resources.
Yeah.
And in the
Just real quick, I like what Destiny just did right there, because while I like the way that Michael just described it, he still didn't answer the question of what is your definition of it. Let's go.
broadest of senses are people that can partition resources. But it feels like when you guys talk about alpha males, there's this weird kind of like double speak happening where alpha males are, Rollo mentions the pool boy a lot. And we look at the pool boy, so the woman wants to fuck the pool boy while she's dating the poor beta bucks guy. But I feel like the beta bucks guy, more often than not, fits the definition of like a high value man or an alpha male. He's somebody that usually commands a lot of resources, partitions them, is relatively successful, displays a level of competency. Whereas the pool boy would be the beta. He is a
He's poor.
yeah. I don't want to say a loser, but if he's like if he's 18, you can be a pool boy. But if he's like a 35-year-old pool boy guy and he's got nothing else going on in life, he's like a loser. But somehow in that situation, it feels like we're calling him like the alpha fucker versus the beta bucker. Like so what is the alpha?
Generally because so the whole pool boy like scenario there. It's usually it's the rich husband.
Yeah. It's the rich husband. It's the pool boy who works at who has all the time in the day to work out, and it has nothing to do from a financial perspective. See, hypergamy is marrying up. It's not fucking up. You know, the pool boy has, more confidence, has the time, pays attention to all her shit, right? It's too different, right? So assigning alpha to the pool boy is not necessary from traditional standards. It's not wholly accurate.
Who wife's at home just lounging out of the pool and she's fucking the pool boy. Okay, I mean every porn movie starts that way, right? But it's primarily because the pool boy represents the peak as far as like alpha fucks is concerned, whereas the husband or the rich guy who has provisioning, protection, and parental investment, he represents long-term security to that woman, whereas for lack of a better word, the pool boy, right, the guy who's the hot guy that she is aroused by, she still wants to fuck that guy. Although we want to say that, well, the guy who's got all this money, we're going to say, well, relatively speaking, if that guy is rich and he can provide for long-term security, logically he would be the one to choose. But yet we still see her cheating with the pool boy, right? So what happens is you've got alpha fucks and beta bucks, and so usually what happens is, like, would women love to have both of those together? Yes, of course they would. They would like to have the complete package. You'll hear women say that all the time, but this is just me spitballing here, but like right now, I think in particularly because women have entered into the workforce, because they have educations, because they have basically become the men that they wanted to marry, they don't need men anymore. They want men. Who do they want? They want Brock the bartender. They want the pool boy because he represents the hot, fun sex, the short-term, sexual genetic benefits guy. They don't need it because they can take care of that shit for themselves.
I guess what I'm not understanding, and this is what I don't know if there's a way to reconcile this.
Yeah, he went in a different direction. I didn't think he was going to go in that direction. He's essentially saying that women don't need men anymore for provisioning because, they're in the workforce as much. So in a woman's mind, although the beta bucks guy is out doing all these things, she doesn't value it as much because she can make her own money. I think that's what he's trying to say, but I still don't think it answers the question of why is the pool boy seen as an alpha, which I think was Destiny's original question. Shout out to Kadu. Destiny's debating algorithm is to encourage the world's gynocentric order to remain intact. He holds men and women to insanely different standards.
Let me just define really quickly, because everybody's gonna like lose their shit on this. But like whenever we talk about like alpha, beta, whatever, and if you want to get into sociosexual hierarchies, you'd say delta, gamma, whatever. But I only ever use alpha and beta because it just distills these things down to placeholder terms.
Sure.
So I don't think that human males are like silverback gorillas, right, or wolves on the Arctic tundra.
It's just frameworks.
Do you understand? The day she got married, the alpha was the guy she married. And
I understand what you're saying, but because you're making this appeal to evolutionary biology, but when we look at alphas in other species, those alphas are never, or very rarely are they the way that we describe alphas in society. When
That's what I'm saying.
There's not like the silverback. There is no silverback gorilla who's the alpha who like runs into the forest, comes back, fucks a woman, and then leaves, right? These guys are very pro-social. They're leaders for primates, especially. Not just dominance, though. There's a lot of prestige as well. There's a lot of like mutual grooming that goes on with gorillas, right?
Primates, yes.
Primates, yes. So for instance, like being pro-social, grooming other primates are all very important. Because regardless of how strong or alpha you might think a chimpanzee is, 2 or 3 others are going to kill him if he's an asshole. Nobody's going to want to follow that guy. There is no such thing.
Because beta males form coalitions to take down.
So with the chimp, absolutely. With silverback, it's a little different. He's not as pro-social. He doesn't want any other males around at all. But yeah, I do understand what you're saying. I think the difference, like I said before, is we're just using it as a placeholder. Alpha just means more than beta. It doesn't mean anything else.
Okay, sure. And I can accept that, but I would fight you if I was in a fighting mood. That would be a lot different because we're very clearly drawing from the animal kingdom.
Yes.
So when we use those words,
because we're animals,
I understand. But the way that
frame of reference.
Yeah, I understand. But alpha male in the animal kingdom would be like the beta lawyer guy. That would be the alpha male. The guy that is just the pool boy would be the lowest of the low in the animal kingdom. He would probably be excised from the group and he would just die.
In his law firm, he contextually is the alpha male. When the girls have girls' night and go to Thunder from Down Under, he's no longer the alpha male. Contextually, that's going to change.
That's fine, but that context you're talking about, that doesn't exist in the animal kingdom. The alpha is always the alpha.
Right,
he doesn't change to the alpha depending on the scenario.
Because the silverback gorilla is always the strongest male until he isn't. And that's the reason why it doesn't change. And there's so many other factors that go. And I agree with you. There's so many other factors that go because Homo sapiens are so much more complicated than silverback gorillas. But the thing is, the only reason when we say alpha, it is a placeholder from this point now, and then it changes whenever. It's almost holding alpha is like holding a puff of smoke in your hands. It's there for a few minutes, and then it goes away. And so it's almost like getting on a hot streak when you're playing basketball.
Destiny, I'm going to make a book suggestion.
Just real quick before Rollo goes in, this right here might be one of the most fundamental components of the conversation. I think I just learned something here as well. What did I just learn? The brother right here says, what is alpha? Super subjective is essentially what he's saying. Alpha just means more than beta. The term alpha, I think the term alpha is incredibly subjective. I think high value man can be made objective, but there's in human beings there's not an objective definition of alpha. Right? There's not an objective definition. I think there's more of an objective definition within animals, right? But not for humans, right? It's and I'm gonna take that with me going forward in this conversation. That alpha just means more than beta, right? It just depends on the situation. It depends if you are, just like he said, he's like, if you're at a party having a conversation with someone, the girls are paying you more attention, and then if you go to a Drake concert and everyone's looking up at Drake. Right, it just switches depending upon the conversation. Let's keep going. Let's see if there's any more in this.
For you, real quick, because this is a lot. I think we're both drawing from the same place. There's a really great book. It's called Alpha God by Dr. Hector Garcia. I would highly suggest. You would really like that book.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, there might be. Okay. So then I just want to fixate then on this. That when we say alpha beta, when we're talking about like humans, it really has nothing to do with like alpha beta in terms of animal kingdoms.
Yeah, it has to do with more or less.
Sure. Okay. That's fine. So it's the same words, but no drawing. Because like an alpha for humans, a lot of the times, for instance, we're focused on like dark triad or like antisocial personality traits, right? Like the alpha, like drug dealer.
Because that's the result in the end for coming back, but that's not always the case. The quarterback of the football team can have nothing but integrity and care about his teammates, but he's still an alpha.
There are scoundrel alphas, and there are the leaders of industry. The guy who goes
and I would agree with that, but the star football player is the alpha in the traditional animal sense, and that he's also probably a good leader. He's very pro-social. He takes care of his teammates. He's not just out there being a dominant, like fuck you, I'm gonna kill you. If you
so he doesn't have to be dark triad, but he could because if you're in a situation where we're all sitting fighting the zombies, we're gonna want the dark triad guy. He is going to be the one to be willing to do the most violence to some extent.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think you're not gonna want the guy that's gonna feed random people to the zombies because he's bored. Didn't they do that in The Walking Dead where the guy like beat people to death with a bat? I don't know if you want that guy as your fucking leader. Right.
Maybe not Negan, but the other whatever they did with the pistol. I forgot what his name was. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but you are going to want the guy who is going to be willing to do the most violence and feel the least guilt about it.
I try to like make comparisons here with like the alpha archetype. So like if you would look at like say Captain America, alpha. If you look at Iron Man, also alpha. but they're different kinds of alphas. If you got Superman, you've got Batman. Batman's the Dark Knight, and he's the vigilante, and he's a dark. But then you've got the truth, justice, and the American way.
You can also say,
however, I will say all those guys that you described, I would agree because they partition resources. But the really confusing thing for me is when we talk about alpha fucks, beta bucks, where the alpha here is somebody that cannot partition resources, which doesn't make sense from
the pool boy. The pool boy.
Because the pool boy is not an alpha in literally any sense of the word.
He serves a different purpose than the other.
So his resources is different. It is his V-shaped torso and his height and his sexual appeal to her. It's just a different resource.
Yes.
Because when you think about it, there is no analog for money in the Pleistocene epoch, right? Money, what we use today is just competency.
Pleistocene epoch.
Pleistocene. I can say
I know you always say that so fast.
Sorry. So the thing is, there is the analogy for competency today is money. That's why women are attracted to it. It doesn't make sense because money didn't exist during the Pleistocene epoch. So why is it that women are attracted to money now? And the reason why is because it's an allegory for competency. So back then, the competency for somebody who grew up, let's go all the way back to the 13th century, Genghis Khan, the man with the broadest shoulders who could swing the sword the hardest, women are going to be more attracted to him. What is his resource? His resource is the ability to conduct violence on her behalf to protect her offspring. And so that's why when we see the pool boy, well, not we, but the wife sees the pool boy, she sees him as more of a physical protector subconsciously, not consciously.
I understand what you're saying. And it's a nice story, but I don't think it lines up at all. I don't think because there's no genetic attractiveness to somebody that can't partition resources. Historically speaking, in terms of like,
no, I think what Destiny is missing here in this conversation is that she's cheating on the pool boy. She already has the resources, hence the beta bucks. But the beta is not squeezing off or penetrating them sweet walls and cheeks to the degree is what she needs. So then she looks at the pool boy with the V taper, right? Like she already has the resources. She already has the provision. She already has the protection. So then it switches in her mind. What is the alpha in that situation? And it would be someone that has sexual dominance over, and can, live some fantasy with her, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, but that can only sometimes be a proxy for it. Right.
A lot of women. Okay, so here's the reason why. Let's go back to the science. 20% of men on. I'm sorry.
Because here's the thing: if the woman wasn't in a relationship, right? Like, or let's say her provision. Let's say that she was poor, right? She didn't have a lot of money, and she's choosing the pool boy over the guy who can protect, provide, provision, pay for shit. Well, then she's just an idiot. Then she's just stupid. Then somehow her hypergamous instinct is not set in stone within her body. She's a weirdo, right? She's just choosing incorrectly, right? Because your evolutionary biology says that if you don't have those things, you should do things to want to get those things. But see, when she has those things and doesn't want to get caught, then other things will switch within her mind. Shout out to Zentiates with the $50 super chat. Again, my brother, appreciate the support, man. As I've stated before, Destiny's argument is faulty because the pool boy is deemed the alpha because his attitude, physique garners the same sexual access without the heavier money, emotional investment than the beta. The beta husband is lost his investment. The beta husband lost his investment / respect. And and just like I said before, she's cheating. She already has all those things. So the goal is not to get caught cheating, right? So she wants to tap into that shit because it's available. Okay, let's keep going.
It's the top 10% of men on Tinder are getting 63% of the right swipes, and it's because of their physical attractiveness.
Yeah, but that's a super unique environment because that's like one woman to every 5 men.
We're talking to millions and millions of people.
Yeah, but it's still the women there are going to be selective in ways that they never would be in normal society. When you're on a 5-to-1 discrepancy there.
If we were to look at Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge and the total usage compared to the population, it's a pretty significant number of women that are attracted to men just because of their physical attractiveness.
Absolutely not. And you know this if you've hung around women, because if you go into, for instance, if you go into any workplace, everybody's fucking. Always, sure. Right? But like,
not
it's
always,
not,
but yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. In the low-level place I work, McDonald's, restaurants.
Fresh. This is a workplace.
Not in the 27 air refueling.
No comment.
No comment. You can go
Why does he keep putting himself on the screen?
into any workplace that's not fresh and fit, right? If you go into like restaurants, you go into kind of like working class shit, everybody's fucking. If you go into schools, a lot of classmates
but the
are
hottest
fucking,
girl
right?
is generally going to go after the dude who has the highest status, the Denny's waitress who ends up with the Denny's manager, like that kind of situation.
Sure,
too.
but the waitress is also fucking like the coworkers too, and the coworker, like everybody's fucking.
Let me see if I can throw a monkey wrench in all of this. Okay.
Sure.
Which calendar sells the most? The dad bod calendar or the Thunder from Down Under Chippendales calendar
Like
to
the
women?
idea that
Which one sells
the
the
idea
most?
that Chris Hemsworth's physical appearance does not make him more attractive to women. Obviously, it does. The idea that
I just let me move the screen over. Destiny has notes. I just picked up on that. Maybe you guys didn't see it either because of my face portrait thing, but he's actually going through notes. So he prepared for this.
Drake's physical appearance or whoever, their physical appearance for women, it's not everything. For as men, way more important for us.
I understand. Yeah, and I understand we have a desire to point to these surveys a lot where we look at like, okay, well, what do women find more attractive? And women definitely do find certain features more attractive. But I think the issue that we have is just because they find something more attractive doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go for that as a partner or even necessarily a sexual partner. So this is something I try to do.
Okay, so stop right there just real quick, because what you're doing is you're like pushing the two together. Okay, we're not talking about like the pool boy is not forming a relationship with the rich woman who's married to that guy. She just wants to fuck him right then and there because they're separating the two there.
But she might fall in love with him. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Houston, $5 super chat. I just want to send this because I support your movement, bro. Love the content. Thank you so much for the love.
We're not talking about like forming a relationship.
Sure, but even as like
just be. I just want to. He was hot and he was a hot guy in the foam can party.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying there, but so for the largest survey that I could find, so in 2015 in evolutionary psychology, Frederick and Jenkins did a survey of over 60,000 people. Over half of them were men, and it had to do with the average number of sexual partners between all the men. And because I was curious, I'm trying to find like, well, are there certain guys that like fuck all the women? Like who are the alphas or whatever? And two of the metrics that they tracked were height and BMI. So they had very short, average, tall, very tall, and extremely tall guys. The biggest discrepancy, the extremely tall guys had 12.3 partners on average. And extremely tall was 6'5" and above. And the very short guys, 5'2" to 5'4", my short kings, their average partners was 9.4. That was the biggest discrepancy. At short, which is 5'5" to 5'7", you have 11 average partners. From 5'8" to 5'10", you've got 11.7. From 5'10" to 6'1", you've got 12. And then from 6'2" to 6'4", you've got 12.1. From 6'5" on, you've got 12.3. There's not like this huge discrepancy in terms of like who's getting all these partners. And same thing with BMI. For underweight people, it was 8.2 average. Normal weight, 10.9. Normal weight. Overweight was 12. Obese was 11.7. And then obese category 3 was 9.3.
I just don't know that necessarily describes Leonardo DiCaprio. Like there's
it's
like,
not, but I think there's a really good description for Leonardo DiCaprio. And this is what I kept trying to find. Who is getting all the women? And it's not a particular trait. It's not a particular thing. It's just guys that want to fuck a lot of women. Those are the guys that get a lot of women. It's not because they're necessarily tall or necessarily wealthy. And you guys must know somebody. I think we all probably know a guy who's a fucking bum who hits way above his pay grade because he's got a good smile. He's the pool boy, right?
Sure.
Arguably, he is the pool boy because what does the pool boy have?
What's the guy who's nailing Kim Kardashian now? Or
Pete Davidson?
Yeah.
It's a great, but that has to do with pre-selection. The thing is that you also know the guy who's like really tall and good looking who can't get his fucking life together but just keeps banging hot chicks after hot chicks. It just, the thing is, for women, there's so many different reasons why they're attracted to men, but for some women, one of those reasons is physical appearance, and for other women, it is just fucking money, and they all live here in South Beach. Like that's, you know what I'm saying?
That might be the case, but poor people have more partners on average. So it seems like I'm trying to find like we have these theories and these concepts, and I'm trying to like drill it down.
More poor people than there are rich people. You look at the number.
But it's also because poor people just fuck more because they have nothing else to do. Right? If you're a kid and you go to school and then you go home and mom's at home, right? Yeah. No, it's because it's not necessarily because it's more, but it's because you have less shit to do when you're poor, right?
We're not in caves.
Well,
anymore.
I mean, depending on where you're born. No, but like wealthy people, right?
Destiny's right though. In my 20s, I had way more bodies in my 20s than in my 30s. It's because I have less time now than what I had in my 20s. He's right when he says
wake up at 6:30 a.m. to go to your high school pre-band practice, and then you're from school from 7 to 4, and then you've got football practice from 4 to 6, and then you go home to mom who's a full-time mom at home, right? Your day is going to look a lot different than somebody that like goes to school at 8, leaves school at 2:30, and you've got nothing else to do for the rest of the day but fuck, right? And statistically speaking, poor people they've got more kids, and they have more sex than wealthy people. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a discrepancy between tall and short people. I can't find a discrepancy between like fat and small people. So I feel like the guys that want to fuck aren't like evolutionarily the guys that just it's guys that want to fuck, that go out looking for women to fucking
Like
practice that
showing more
particular skill.
intent. So you're saying logistics might have a big part in it because
Yeah,
they're putting
and I'm-
themselves out there more.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm saying that even though we can survey women and we can say, like, do you find this guy more attractive or this guy more attractive or this guy more attractive? Women will say, oh, yeah, I find that more attractive. And we're very keen to say, like, well, look, they find that more attractive. These are the guys having all the sex. But that's not always true. It's just the guys that want to have all the sex, right? Like Bill Gates could probably be fucking 100 women in a week if he wanted to, but he's probably
maybe
not,
it's
right?
the confluence of the two things. It is the attractive man who also wants to fuck a lot, and then he's the one with what was the survey we saw where the top 5% of men had 150 sexual partners or something like that. I
Yeah,
forgot.
it's the hockey stick.
I think it
That
could be
is
both.
true, and that number is true. However, that top 5% of men, it didn't necessarily correlate to a trait. It was the top 5% that wanted to fuck a lot of women. It was.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Destiny brought up a study specific to men of all different physical characteristics and said, what was the men's body count? And the thing is that within that particular argument, within those statistics, like he said earlier, he used statistics to prove anything. What seems like to me is that what's not controlled for, there's not enough things controlled for within that particular study. It's because for women, it's not just based all off of physical characteristics. What I say on the channel is that women fall in love with what they hear more than what they fall in love with what they see, right? So like within the tall guy to the short guy, what if most of the tall guys didn't have any game, didn't have any mouthpiece? What if the tall guys didn't really mess with women like that earlier in life, and they mess with them when they gain a financial, standing later off in life? Like there's a lot of things to try to control for that women generally find attractive. So I think that what Destiny is bringing up, I don't think that he's saying that study is conclusive, that there's no physical difference. What I think that he's saying is that he's trying to find out much more. He's trying to figure out the different components that would lend to understand why certain men are chosen over others. And it could just be you want to just more. And because you want to do it, right? Like if you want to, you're less likely, and do it all the time, you are less likely to always go after 8, 9s, and 10s. You might have some 2, 3s, and 4s underneath your belt. That's another thing. They should have controlled for the actual like beauty standard of the particular woman's as well. Because if the short guys are banging 2s and 3s, but then the tall guys are banging 9s and 10s, then that's a data point that we need to consider. You know what I'm saying? So maybe the numbers are the same, but they're going for different types of women because of what they're afforded. All right, let's keep going.
It wasn't just the tallest men that were the top 5. It wasn't just the wealthiest.
I just see so many guys who want to fuck like.
Guys, hit the like button. I know you guys come in here, you're looking at the content. They had a great stream last night. You're coming back in here and you're like, oh shit, MTR is going to try to go over it. You forgot to click on the like button. Click on that like button. All right. Show me some respect. Thanks. Oh, wrong button.
A lot of women, and they're just bad with women.
Yeah,
I know, but I also
think
like.
there's just more of them.
I
now,
know, but
too.
I know a lot of guys. Fuck, my people on my stream will know this. There are a lot of guys that are. No offense to anybody that might know who I'm talking about. There are people that are losers, and they do so well for themselves because they're funny, they're charming, they're witty. They get girls to make them laugh, and they fuck so many women. And these guys don't even have houses half the time, right?
Maybe what that is a corollary to the ability to align resources. Meaning, if I'm funny, then I can have higher social alignments. Remember when we defined what an alpha male was? Or I'm sorry, we defined what a high status male was. We said he had high status social alignments. Funny people have those things.
Yes.
And so maybe that's a corollary, and that's why women find them attractive. It could be several different reasons. I think what you're hung up on is specifically the pool boy having abs and being just physically attractive. There's also the bartender who listens to her when her husband doesn't. She still might fuck him too.
Or maybe he has dark triad traits, because dark triad traits end up being like guys who have dark triad traits end up having higher sexual partners.
They do, but it's because people with dark triad traits want to have more sex, right? That's the issue, is they tend to chase him more. And if you chase him more,
but that only works one way. So like, why is it that women find dark triad traits attractive in the first place?
I don't think women generally find dark triad traits. Are you familiar with the study they did where they described like the tennis player, and they ask women? There's a really famous one. They ask women if they find him more or less attractive. And basically, fuck, I should have brought this one with me. But basically, there's
I have one here, but go ahead.
Sure. There's a whole list of like, they describe a tennis player, and then in one, they list like very domineering, very dominant traits. And then the other, they don't. They list more kind of like submissive traits, and they ask the women who's more attractive. And all the women go towards the dominant, domineering one in the study generally. Yeah. But then when they
but then there's another study. I believe that it's a study, but then they go and they ask these women, they bring up 2 pictures, and one is of a serial killer who looks like, just like a cool motherfucker. And then they got another guy who's a nerd, and they say, well, which one would you want to bang? And then they always choose the guy who look like the guy who has like he looks like dark triad, but then he come to find out that he's a serial killer.
We run this study, and they just list like the first 3 sentences, and they don't have any of the dominant or submissive things. Women just go with the first guy, which was interesting because they didn't even consider that.
I
do remember
this
this
isn't
one,
the one
yeah.
I wasn't looking
Wait,
this is the
just
one
so I
was looking
understand
for.
this, so I can make sure was the tennis player famous or
No. It was just a hypothetical where they say, here is a guy who's 6'3", he's got a good serve, he's very good at tennis, and then they go on to describe him, and they ask who the woman would be more attractive on based on the writings that they give.
Yeah, the traits.
Yeah,
dominant
and what
one
they
versus submissive, and they picked dominant
initially, but then when they
Yeah.
left no dominant or submissive, women picked like the baseline guy with less written about him. And as they continue to add and take away
was,
from
was the baseline guy a tennis player too?
it was the first 3 sentences without any added descriptors to him, basically.
By the way,
Okay.
they've done the same experiment with hiring practices, and they found the same thing. People would just pick the first person. I think
Sure,
it's just,
potentially.
yeah.
Although they did in that study, they did a better job of shuffling around than just like the first person.
Yeah.
But what they found when they started to add and take away more is there's this concept, and it pairs really well with this concept earlier we talked about the alpha male, that women are drawn towards alpha guys that are violent and all this shit. And not really. They're drawn towards dominant men, but they're drawn towards dominant pro-social men. So not just a guy that can go out and fucking kill everybody, but a guy that can go out and get other people to come with him to go kill people. Not just a guy that is like this evil fucking asshole, but a guy can be really inspirational, and maybe he's a little bit mean sometimes, but he gets people to do things. And that pro-social part of the alpha thing is really, 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 really important.
Well, that all rocks on real well, except for the fact that you've got convicted killers in prison right now, and you've got women who are creating, teenage fan clubs to go get with those guys. Now, of course, what happens? Everybody says, "Well, they're all damaged goods." But the problem is you see this over and over and over again. Somebody just sent me this
The Richard
recently.
Ramirez thing where
People
were
Anders
flashing.
Breivik, the Boston Marathon
Jeffrey
bomber, those
Dahmer.
guys. Those guys.
Jeffrey Dahmer was homosexual and had fucking girls
So
coming
it's,
after him.
it's,
Yeah,
it's,
we
what's
covered that,
known,
right?
it's what's known as hybristophilia. Okay, now are all women hybristophiles?
No.
But only women are hybristophiles. So there is something that maps on to the attraction to guys who have a capacity for violence and extreme violence as well.
Sure, well, that's kind of true, but like, couldn't I also argue anecdotally that there's a lot of guys that are obsessed with like BPD girls?
Yeah, I mean they're super fun.
Yes,
I
but
agree
we're
with you.
talking
But
about
listen,
guys who are very antisocial, like provenly antisocial.
I don't-
who are
well,
like
when we say-
in
I
jail for
don't-
violent
I
crimes.
don't know if that's always the case though, because when you look at like the cult
They
leaders,
have to actually separate
Mhm.
female prison guards from the male population because the guards fall in love with the convicted
exactly,
killers.
but it's probably because the traits that they exhibit aren't ASPD traits. They're not actually antisocial personalities or traits. They are, usually a lot of these, especially these cult leader guys, come off as like relatively charming, relatively funny,
well, most
pretty
people with
charismatic.
antisocial personalities sort of come off as
They
relatively
can, yeah,
charming.
they can be very manipulative.
Yeah.
But
So-
but the way that they do it isn't because there's this idea of the alpha. It's just like, oh, fuck you, bitch, I'm gonna get you. But that's not usually how it goes. He's usually very charming, can get women to do a lot of crazy shit because he's like so manipulative. You know?
So let's just to try to find a common ground here.
Mhm.
Again, the book by Cindy Meston and David Buss of UT Austin. They wrote a book called Why Women Have Sex. They came up with 237 reasons why women have sex. And so the main thing is you're not wrong about any of those things. Anecdotally, we can come up with tons of reasons where a girl is a good girl and then all of a sudden she moves to Miami and she ends up working in a club. She ends up cheating on her fucking boyfriend. We can come up with numerous examples of all these things happening. And the thing is, the main thing I would take away is there's just more variation with women than there is with men. That's the only thing I would take.
I got to say, this is Rob Henderson. I'm sure you're probably familiar with Rob. In modern society, the most violent gang members often have the highest status compared to their non-violent peers. Young male gang members between 14 and 18 years old were 5.7 times more likely to have had sex and 3.2 times more likely to have gotten a girl pregnant.
Sure, but listen to what you just said there.
That's
That wasn't
August of 2022.
that wasn't the pool boy though. That was for the people at the top of their particular games.
We're also talking about violent.
But they were people
criminals.
that could petition resources, not the pool boy, right?
Violent gang members. I guess they could partition resources.
We agreed earlier that Epstein could, and he was a piece of shit. But
if your point is there are multiple different ways to be alpha, I agree totally. I don't.
well,
It doesn't just
that's
have to be
but
physical.
The
physical
the
attraction.
prestige alpha, where you're like a leader and you exhibit a lot of pro-social behavior, I think is the key one that most women are attracted to. It's not just a guy that's an asshole or a guy that's an
I don't know
alpha.
about most, but they're in the middle of the deviation. I would agree with that.
Okay.
Destiny's doing very well.
Rob Henderson again. A man's height had an enormous impact on how desirable he was to women.
On how desirable, but not the average number of partners.
The most popular men were between 6'3" and 6'4", which of course tracks because that's what they set the filters to.
True, but that study that you always bring up shows that women value relative height more than just absolute height.
See,
talking about the 89
it's funny.
1989 survey, yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because we were talking about this recently. I've kind of changed my opinion on this as far as height is concerned. It's not like I used to say. Well, guys would be like, "Oh, Rollo, I'm 5'9". I'm doomed. I'm never gonna find a chick." I'm always like, "Okay, well, find a girl who's 5'8". That's not enough, because what happens is that guy who's 5'9" stands next to you, and now he looks like the hottest guy in the fucking club because he is the one that's taller than your man. So it's there again. We go back to the perceptual thing once again. It's not necessarily finding the guy who's or finding the woman who's just 1 inch shorter than you. You also have to be be higher, taller than everybody else in the room.
So would you guys say height is a byproduct of height attraction is a byproduct of absolute? Or
I think
you're saying it's not
height,
absolute?
I'm
You're
saying that
it's
height can be
contextual?
an attractive quality, but I
Yeah.
think we jump too quickly from what do you find attractive to what are men, what are women actually
So they're
selecting
not actually
for?
sleeping with them.
They're not
even though
selecting
they're
for it.
saying-
It's just like
Got it.
correct.
I just know too many male strippers who've been with 300-400 girls.
Okay, but like, what percentage of the population are male strippers?
Right, but the thing is, while that is the case,
That's it.
While that is the case, that's the reason why those women are selecting them, because of their physical attractiveness. Like at some point, the 6'3" Australian guy who has 6-pack abs, who it just has plethora of women coming after him, does show that women find physical attractiveness.
And I agree with that. Yet there's no shortage of doctors and lawyers, that are happily like in relationships. It's not like some guys like, fuck, like I became a lawyer at a law firm. I'm a doctor. Like I don't have a 6-pack. I'm never gonna find a woman. Like those people don't exist.
But I think what we're talking about though is the guy who can sleep with hundreds of women. I'm not saying they should, but I'm just saying that those guys who can, there's usually something that they do that is above and beyond. They are
True. And the thing that they do that's above and beyond is they go for women. That's the big separator,
Okay,
is whether or not you go after the women or not, right? Because
maybe.
again, when you look at the average heights and you look at the average partners, you're not finding that like all these women, it's like 15 average partners when you're 6 foot plus and only 3 partners for guys. Like even guys that were 5'2" to 5'4", my short kings, no offense, even those guys were on average like 9.1 partners. They were like 4 average partners away from the guys that were 6'5"
I guess I'm
plus.
confused. If the average North American male has 6 partners, how is the 5'2" guy having 9
This was a survey. That number sounds low to me. I haven't heard that before. I thought the average number of partners for the North American male was between 9 to 11. That's what I heard.
Maybe it is. I thought
6
they were
sounds
having
low.
less
It
sex.
might be like average relationships or something, but the average number of partners I've heard. And again, this is a 2015 study, evolutionary psychology, surveyed 60,000 people. So I'm keen to.
So from what I
In the United
understand,
States, what was
In the
it?
United States,
the
yeah.
demographic.
so from what I understand, Destiny, you're saying that if the guy wants it to happen, he'll get more partners.
I'm saying that if you take a guy who's 5'4", makes $36,000 a year, okay, and isn't that in shape compared to like a fucking Giga Chad 6'2" guy, if the 6'2" guy is like, I'm gonna focus on work and I'll just fuck whatever comes my way, and the 5'2" guy is like, I'm gonna fuck everything I fucking
Oh,
can.
I
I'm
don't
gonna
think
go
any
hard
of
for
us
it.
disagree with that.
That short dude is gonna pull way more than
there's this thing called the pickup community, of course. Like you
Exactly.
said,
Yeah. And from that pickup community too. So I'm trying to keep everything data driven. I know you bring up your strippers, but if I want to lean into the anecdotes, something that I hear very commonly from the pickup community and something that I've seen personally a lot is you will find these guys in these incel communities. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to some of these subreddits where people will post these pictures. Dude is like relatively attractive,
Yeah, I've seen that
5'11".
too,
Good-
yeah.
And they're like, I feel like I'm hideous and I can't find like any girls. I don't think any girls gonna like me.
Do you
And
think
I was
you think autism might have a place, a part in that?
like, it might. It's hard to say.
Autism has increased 178% since 2000.
See, I don't know. So while I hear that before, the problem is, do you guys remember Steve Urkel? You guys remember Revenge of the Nerds? We were fucking making fun of autistic people back in the 80s and 90s because we didn't know what they were. So when we say it's 78% more
Sure.
autistic people, I just
It's
think
diagnosed, right?
diagnosed. I
Diagnosed,
just think what
yeah.
happened is we used to just call them nerds, and now we're realizing that they actually have a spectrum disorder.
Something,
Also,
yeah.
it used to not be a spectrum; it used to just be autism, and now it's a spectrum. So now we can include more people. So I don't know. That could be the case. We can say, hey, you've run the exact same studies for autoimmune disorders. I think a lot of countries didn't know what autoimmune disorders were, so now we diagnose more of them because now we understand what it was.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
But so just to circle back on this one more time, that we can move on to this point. I don't know of any trait that guarantees you a high number of partners, despite the fact that it's just we talk about it like that all the time. Like I can't find research that says if you're
How about 2
6'2"
traits?
plus,
How about 2 traits?
Even 2 traits, I don't know.
The 2 traits would be
Combinations.
The combination would be some form of competency or physical attractiveness, or like, and then combine that with I'm going to go out every night till I get fucking laid.
well, but again, the only one that really matters is the latter one. Because the latter one, in the least competent guy in the world, is going to get him laid more than the most competent
I
guy
just
in the
don't
world.
know if you have 33% of men having zero sexual partners. I think there's still
There's
a
like a
problem
million
there.
guys in like the
I don't think they
looks
don't wanna
maxers
get
right now.
laid.
They're
Well,
just grinding their
33%
teeth.
was for men 19 to 30. And again, I understand we can do a lot of conjecture, but like I said, like I'm like I said, I tried to find it. Like, are there these traits? Like, what do I need to have to fuck a lot of women? What is like the trait that will let you do it? And it seemed like the answer was just if you want to fuck a lot of women, you go
I can
for
tell.
it.
I can. Well, okay,
Because it does.
This is all-
I think we
this
all
is all
agree. It
anecdotal,
doesn't map
but-
onto money because it's reversed that way, right? Poor people have more sex than wealthy people. Doesn't seem to map cleanly onto height. Doesn't seem to map cleanly onto BMI. Doesn't seem to map cleanly onto career. The more career-driven people have less children and have less
Yeah,
sex.
But then also, like, as far as the poor people and everyone, all those demographics that you just mentioned right now, we also have to take into account age. So if you're looking at like 18 to 30 demographic versus the 30 to 40 to whatever it is. So
Also, there's a difference between having wealth and the ability to spend. Like the willingness to spend, I think actually might.
I was going to say,
we're in Miami, dude. Like,
I just had a study here that was saying that like men who are like not frugal, who would like overspend, they're like, it's almost like FinDom, right? Were more willing to spend above and beyond, like go take a line of credit out. Those guys had a higher instance of sexual partners.
That wouldn't surprise me, but that maps onto what I was saying earlier. I don't think it maps onto what you guys are saying, and that it maps onto a certain alpha trait. It maps onto what I'm saying is that it's a guy that's willing to fucking do what he needs to get laid. He wants to get laid. Yeah. So that spender could be a 5'4" fucking nerd dude that like isn't the most attractive guy, but he's willing to invest time and resources into getting laid.
All of them want to get laid. I think it's who's willing to like move to Brickell or South Beach or move to West or move
who's
to
willing
Hollywood,
to go and
who's
lose
willing to go and physically be there. I think that's the difference
too.
And I think where the delta is, the difference between the guys getting laid and the ones who aren't are the ones, because we do so many things virtually now. I think it's the ones who are willing to go where the shit is. The guys who are willing to live in 6th Street or live in 6th Street in Austin, Texas, or McKinney Avenue in Dallas.
Sure.
Those guys who are willing to live there or be there all the time. I agree with you.
The ones chasing it, yeah.
Yeah, but
I will.
But I think they all want to get laid.
Sure. But again, to circle back, because it feels like in these circles we talk about these are the traits that are desired by women, and these are the things that women are going for alphas. But then when we look at who's actually having the sex, is not actually those people. So that like theory is totally broken.
I don't totally broken. I think you just add logistics to the previous theory, and then all of a sudden, then you'll see. Because I bet you, if we compared all those guys, we would find that the guys who have more money or willing to spend more money or are taller versus the shorter guys, we're going to find that they have more partners.
That is probably true, but all of them are going to outclass the people that aren't trying at all.
Let's just say we control for sex addicts.
Wait, I missed what he just said. Sorry.
Taller versus the shorter guys, we're going to find that they have more partners.
That is probably true, but all of them are going to outclass the people that aren't trying at all.
Let's just say we control for sex addicts, just sex addicts. If we were to look at just those sex addicts, we find the ones with more symmetrical faces, more masculine features, that are taller, have a V-shaped torso, and actually willing to spend more money, better, more charismatic. Controlling for all these sex addicts, we find that they probably have a better ability. So I think it's both.
Well, that is true. You do
I got one more variable.
Oh, wait, here, real quick on this, because you do a lot of Evo Psych stuff. Are you familiar with like hereditary, inheritable traits and all of that?
Of course.
So very, very, very complicated area of research is heritable traits.
Yes.
If I control enough for any trait, the heritability of every single trait will be 100%. If you control away every single variable, then the only thing left to explain the difference is DNA, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the heritability necessarily of every single trait genetically approaches 100%. If you control too much, I agree with you that if we control away for like sex addicts and everything, that we can say like, okay, well, there are some traits that women prefer. But if like all the sex addict populations are up here, and then all of the non-sex addicts are down here, and we're like, okay, well, let's control away for these guys. We're getting rid of our biggest explanatory factor for the difference between people that are having success in mating, right?
Only include the sex addicts in the survey, and then compare them to one another. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, and I understand. I agree with you. But it's the difference in between groups, because what we're really interested in is, we're not really interested when we're asked these questions of like, do these people get laid more? Do these people get laid more? What we're saying is the thing that matters the most is the difference within these groups, but that's not true. It's the difference between the two groups. And the big factor is the sex addict factor. That's what's going to get you laid. Not if we control away for that and we look at the stuff within, it would be like controlling away for nutrition and measuring height.
That was my next point, is like you also have to you also track obesity rates and people being overweight right now. So again, how is that affecting people's arousal states as well?
Well, that's true, but again,
how does that also affect the rates of people getting laid and what they're doing to get laid?
That is true, but I will say, even in that study, the underweight guys had 8.2 average partners. The obese category 3 people had 9.3.
Yes, but you also have to take into consideration there's going to be way more obese people than there are going to be underweight people, and they're simply just by the law of averages.
Yeah, but even if there were, who cares? Like if there are way more obese people, they're still having sex. I don't think anybody in the audience cares. Like, well, fuck, there's more of us. So like, it's just.
I think because we're looking at like central limit theorem in this, and the difference, it doesn't seem like a big difference between 8 and 9, but if you were to look at it from a percentage standpoint, it is a pretty significant difference. Does that make sense? If we're because there's in that survey, I guarantee you there's going to be some zeros and there's going to be some 50s. You know what I'm
absolutely true, which is why I'm glad I have this.
The Chippendales calendar still outsells the dad bod calendar.
True, but across most of the height continuum, however, there was little variation in mean or median number of reported sex partners. Further, men between 5'7" and 6'3" varied little in whether they had more than 5 partners, had more than 14 partners, engaged in extra pair sex, or were currently single. So even for the extreme outliers of 5+ or 14+ partners, it didn't seem to matter as much in the height What mattered is if you wanted to go and fuck
I
people.
don't have a huge problem with this. What
Okay,
you're saying
sure.
is that these things matter. It's just that the thing you think that matters the most is, I would say, logistics. Like if you were to say, what is the thing for me that got me around the most attractive women, is that I live on the strip in Las Vegas.
Mhm.
I live on the strip in Las Vegas. I would go out to clubs and there'd just be hundreds of women every time I went out. And
Sure.
so that if you're making that argument, sure. But I think where we may differ is you may say that's 40% of the total equation, and then say looks, money, status would be the other part. Whereas somebody else might say, well, then no, that's a small part of the equation. I think logistics has been totally overlooked by the pickup community.
Sure.
You guys,
You might
hold on.
believe-
You guys are actually both correct. Like if you, because by being logistically put in the right place, you're around more women, which is what he's arguing.
Yeah.
Volume.
Yeah.
If
So
you're arguing that,
You're
I
arguing
agree with
volume,
you.
he's arguing logistics. But here's the thing: you guys marry them together, and you end up with more volume by default, being in better logistics.
No, sure, but when he
Yeah.
talks logistics, I would say that's probably like 90 to 95% of the
Really?
explanatory power. That if you are in an area, warm spaces where you're making friends with women, you're gonna fuck. It's almost inevitable. that you're gonna
I'll
fuck.
tell you. I'll tell you where.
Wow. Sorry, I just had to just listen to this conversation. This whole conversation again is a huge W for male content. It's a huge W. What I also noticed too is the intelligent, and this is not a diss to Sneako, but the intelligence of the conversation went to a whole nother level once he left. This is almost to a degree like you have to watch this a couple of times. This is not sped up. That's just how fast that they communicate different terms without messing up, without ums and ahs. Like, it's incredible to me. Even myself, my mind doesn't think on that type of degree where I don't I'm not sitting there posturing or considering different things. These guys are just going. They're just going. Shout out to them. They're cooking right now.
both right.
I tell you where I differ.
Sure.
I think there's men below the what's it called, the I don't want to throw this all on
Like a floor of looks or something, or
not a floor of looks, just fucking weird, just so weird that you can put them around. Because I've seen this, because I have 500 clients. The guys that just literally cannot get laid because they just come off as so needy whenever they're around women. So I think for that standpoint, I don't know if it's 90%. As far as them getting laid just because of that whole thing, but as far as what you're saying is intent, I don't know if that's the whole thing. Here's where I would differ. When we're talking about the very physically attractive women, I don't think those numbers would hold up. I think you do need because those very, very physically attractive women get more stimulus from other males, and that stimulus causes them to do more of a comparative research when they choose to fuck this guy versus this guy versus this guy, unless we're talking about Coke and Molly.
The fuck? Did I pause it?
And then it's completely,
Sure.
then it's a
Yeah, I
completely-
understand. Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. And again, that's a nice theory.
Yeah.
I just don't know if there's any data to support that. Like,
Well, I
again,
mean,
it seems like if you're around women, you will fuck those women.
Do we need
That's just like,
we need data to know that if you're like a fat fuck and you get in the gym and you go there for 6 months, you put on muscle and you come down in body fat, that you're going to get more attention from women, or are you going to get less attention?
I think we
from
do,
women?
because I think people know of the guys that go to the gym and they, like, I work in the fucking influencer industry or whatever. Like, there are so many guys that have like fucking 9 out of 10 bodies that have no fucking self-esteem. Like, they carry that fat kid energy with them their entire life, and they
but
have
are
a
they
hard
getting
like,
more attention from women.
They can, but they
Whether or not
fumble it.
can
They fumble it so
capitalize on
hard.
is irrelevant.
And this is where the PUA community, where a lot of coaches, I know there are coaches that will talk to me about this.
Would
How do you
women
get these
like
guys?
to fuck them, even if whether they have the social skills to
let's-
get there in the first place?
Let's use a video game analogy. I used to be like a semi-pro Madden player.
Okay.
Speed, agility, awareness, change of direction, all these things. Let's get them all at least
Max
to
your
80.
stats.
Let's get them all at least to 80, and then add the logistics in, and then that would work. I think that's good advice, and that's a vector to go forth. Now, when you say, well, I know some women who will only date guys who have loaded tattoos, and some guys who won't. Some women who are only interested in African American men, and some women who will not be interested in them. So the divergence is so incredibly strong in those different things. I think if we get all of our sliders up to a certain, like if you're playing FIBA or MLB The Show or Madden or whatever, if we just all of us have those sliders up to a certain point, I think we're going to do well. As far as a prescription
Money,
is
muscles, and
concerned.
game.
I mean, you guys
I think
agree on a lot of points.
Well,
I mean,
sure. Real quick, I think the prescription, the reason why I fight on this, the prescription, I think, is you need to find a way to get into warm spaces with other women.
Logistics.
That is like the number one
Agreed. I don't disagree with
successive
that.
indicator. Yeah.
Fish where the
But it
fish
feels
are.
like in red pill spaces, we spend 99% of time talking about getting your money up, getting your muscle up, and then maybe like learning game.
What red pill spaces are those?
Fresh and fit.
Yeah, but the problem is,
Do you know of any
fresh
other
and-
red pill spaces?
Can
Dog,
I
that's
say her name here?
Go ahead, bro.
I watched a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of the Just Pearly Thing stuff. I've seen a lot of Fresh and Fit stuff. I've seen a lot of clips of like Tate. I've seen a lot of like advice videos from Andrew and Tristan. Although their advice for being a woman is actually generally pretty good.
But they did say the 9 is not at the mall. You're going to meet the 9 at certain parties. You remember that one clip that Andrew Tate had? The other thing is, where are we right now? We're in Brickell. We're in the middle of the shit. We're in Da Nang right now. Sure. This is where the women are. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like we're in the middle. So while you're saying that, we do prescribe logistics. I have some pretty significant criticisms of the pickup community. Sure. Logistics is one of my main ones. Logistics and not using social media at all. They were 10 years behind the curve on social media. Those things, that's where the pickup community screwed up. So I agree with you about his logistics. Of course, yeah.
I think we all agree for the most part, right? That we need, once again, to want to have girls in our life. And as a result, location means you have game. So the foundation is going to be having these traits of
you need to acquire resources to afford a place in the tallest building in Florida.
Where the fish are.
Well, not necessarily, because it could literally be just having a job where you're around a lot of women. It could be joining the right classes in high school.
A male nurse.
Where you have there's a girl I went to fucking high school and I fucking joined the fucking bullshit ass what is it, like play theater or whatever after school.
Choir, you get so much.
Holy
male
shit, it's like 60-40,
totally
to like women to men. And like when you're in those spaces, you have to be fucking, unless you're literally hyper autistic. You're gonna be fucking, right?
Nah, they're both wrong and they're both right. Like, yeah, you don't have to be. You can join a let's say you're a male nurse and you're with all of these women. If the sliders are not, the attributes, as Sartain was saying, from a attributes perspective, if those are not all the way up, like you might have the job might be all the way up, but what if you're 450 pounds? Let's say that you're not a leader, that you're not confident. Let's say you got bad skin and a whole bunch of acne. So like it doesn't mean necessarily you're gonna get all of the women there, but if you reach the sliders above a certain degree, then all the sliders plus the access is going to increase your chances. I mean, it makes sense to me. I mean, if you want to take the Madden analogy a little bit further, let's say all of your sliders are incredible. Let's say that you're hunted on every goddamn thing, but then you get put on a team where all the other team members is 0. Well, guess what? Your entire team is going to suck, but you're on that team, meaning you're not in the right space. You're not in the right arena. You know what I'm saying? Like, I even think to myself, as I moved recently, going from the Midwest to the South, right? And the access to women in the South that I have access to right now. I mean, the first month that I was there, 2 women that I ended up messing up with was probably top 10 women from a looks perspective that I've ever messed with in my life. And that's because the curve down there is so much different than the curve that it was in the Midwest. You see what I'm saying? But because I'm down there with much more abundant 8, 9s, and 10s, the access is there because the sliders are already put into motion. Let's keep going.
The manager of the strip club, the male, the bartender, the guy who manages the Hooters, for sure. Those guys, the what are they called? The bussers at the top end.
The bussers at Wendy's, or not Wendy's, at fucking Denny's or whatever.
Security.
The bussers at Live, the bussers at Access, the bussers at fucking Zook. Exactly. Yeah.
Shout out to my barbacks.
Real quick, I'm gonna hit these chats real quick, and then we'll get to the next topic. So we covered the vasectomy, we covered the mating strategy, dual mating strategy. We covered divorce a bit. I don't know if you guys want to go deeper into it. Next is going to be promiscuity from females.
Sure.
All right, so we got here, Angel goes, contextual amoral alpha in society, a.k.a. Mr. Do-It-All, level 99 stats on everything, biblical times. Either.
Let's skip the super chats.
Asked you
oh wait, they called them out on this.
Hey guys, like I said before, chats.
So do we still believe in pair bonding or?
So that goes into promiscuity.
A little bit, but it's going to be in the still mating thing too.
I love this topic. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Before we do, just right quick, just to tag something on the end here is when I asked you, do you know of any other red pill communities? Of course, you can name the nameless one. But
hey, I'm interviewing her on the 24th. I just want to point that out.
I want to point out also that the red pill doesn't begin and end with Fresh and Fit or Tate or her or myself even. Okay, I think that's what's throwing everyone off right now. So everybody sees one thing and they go, "Oh, that's what the red pill's about. Oh, it's about vasectomies. Oh my God, that's so one tweet or one image and one perception colors the rest of what you're talking about. So up to this point, we have a pretty good civil debate. I think so, right? But so are you getting that from us, or are you getting that from whatever podcast? Are you getting that from a Reddit forum? Are you getting that from a Discord forum? There's so much more to it than just podcasts. Just what we're.
I feel like everything that I've expressed so far, I've heard you say almost directly generally. Everything I've expressed in this debate, like I've looked at videos, I've got quotes.
But again, like even the ripple, like I've been doing this for close to 20 years. Well, actually a little over 20 years right now. And I'll even say right now, like it doesn't begin and end with me, and it won't begin and end with these guys.
Would you say the term is a placeholder, like the term alpha male?
Right.
Red pill is a because I think people can be.
There needs to be a different term.
This may offend some people. I don't think anyone can be red pill. I think you can be red pill aware. I think that's about it. Like the idea of all of us saying, hey, the likelihood of us getting divorced would cause us to have a prenup is red pill aware.
Sure.
I don't think anybody can be red pill.
Yeah, and that's fine. And there doesn't have to be like an exact group. I'm just trying to, I'm broadly referring to a broad set of, or vaguely referring to a broad set of ideas, collection of ideas.
Like, I hate when I see like fucking super racist, misogynistic shit, and I see these in the comments. I fucking hate the fact that I'm associated with this shit. I hate
That's a fact.
But at the same time, hilarious. But at the same time, I also understood like here's the thing. There's two. I meant to say this before. There's almost like the Song of Ice and Fire. There's two forces that are coming together here.
Yeah.
One of them is let's create a healthy family structure, and the other one is let's not get fucking used by these 304s. And they're just fire and ice, just blasting each other. And for Sneako, it's way further in the let's create the family structure. And for a lot of these guys who have no sexual prospects whatsoever, it's like let's not get used by the 304s. And these two forces are pushing against each other, which is causing what these divisions and this debate.
That's why it's so hard to give an elevator pitch for the red pill. Because there's so much. So like there's guys who just want to get their dick wet. Okay. Then there's guys who want to be on their game and they want to maybe they want to start a family, right? Maybe they're the guys who are already in a marriage, a sexless marriage, and they want to figure out how to get their wife to have sex with them again. There's so much going on. Like that's the thing that just drives me insane is I have to be an expert on like neurology, endocrinology, sociology, anthropology, and all these little subfields because they all some way like dovetail into what we to red pill awareness.
Sure, and that's fine.
So, okay. Whoa. Guys, we've been going for 3 hours and almost 15 minutes at this current junction. Let me take a pause right here. I want to take a pause. Guys, send me an email, send me a message. Matter of fact, don't send me an email. Leave a comment underneath this video if you guys want me to continue and finish off the rest of this live stream at some junction. Based off of this is about the halfway or ish or so point within there. Yeah, it's about 2 hours and 5 minutes in, or a 4 hour live stream. I think that we've learned a lot regarding this conversation. I think there's a couple of things I want to conclude. Rollo definitely came through and spoke for himself, and I think brought his, for the weak public perception up out of the gutter. He didn't get emotional. He didn't get beyond himself. He stuck to the points. Although I'm also a little bit like this guy is the champ. He's the MVP of the entire conversation. His name is Michael Sartain. He's the MVP of the conversation. I thought that his points were extremely thought out, extremely well rounded. He sounds like he's been doing this a long time. I know Rollo said he's been doing this for about 20 years or something like that. But I really love the way that he demonstrated his points, even though Rollo still did a fantastic job. Rollo, to me, did a way better job than what Sneako did. What I think, what we can't lose sight of is that Sneako is 24 years old. He's still learning things about himself. Rollo is probably more than double his age, has a lot more experience, and has been doing this content almost just as long as Sneako's been alive, right? 20 years, 24 years. You see what I'm saying? So, like, I'm not faulting him. The thing is, with this content shit, from a debate perspective, it's not about winning or losing. It's about how can you become a fixture within the space. Understand what I'm saying? How do you become a fixture? Let's take someone else outside of the space, for example. DJ Academics. Whether you love him or hate him, he's a fixture in the space. When something happens from a news noteworthy perspective, when it comes to hip-hop news and our media, people will watch his stuff. People want to see what he has to say. Publications will quote them in their articles. And that's because love him or hate him, he's a fixture. Irrespective of loving or hating Fresh and Fit, they are fixtures. And there's nothing that no one can do outside of that except for, evicting them up out of their spot or not allowing them to record anymore because they're still going to, upload content. So within that being said, I think Destiny, he did a fantastic job. And Destiny gets special kudos because he's going on into a space where he's constantly trolled. Most of the audience doesn't agree with his points. He rocks blue goddamn hair, but he's still able to come through with the facts, the data, which you guys already know over here. We love the facts and the data in order to try to think through it. And he didn't do it in an undercutting sort of a way. He wasn't hitting all of these kind of low blow jokes or nothing like that. And it seems like he stayed true to what he said in the beginning, is that we're all trying to come to a degree of the truth. I love the way that he asks certain questions as to say, well, I have this study. How do we figure out like what is becoming of this study? How do we know which types of men are going to have the most amount of viscous innards if this is what the numbers show? I appreciate that part of the conversation, and I made sure that part of the conversation continued to play because I didn't want to interrupt it. I thought that was probably the most value-added portion of the conversation. Sneako left early. I don't know. I wish that he stayed, right? If this is his new life, and maybe he just has to get a lot more tutelage up under his belt, do a lot more research. But I think having a debate with Rollo at this junction doesn't form well within his talking points right now. So shout out to the MVP right there. Shout out to Fresh and Fit. Shout out to Rollo. Shout out to Destiny. This is good. This is fantastic for the space. Let me also say this as well. This is also a reason why I wish that, I know that Abba and Preach, they make a lot of content regarding Fresh and Fit, and I don't see that the relationship getting better at any junction. But Abba he also fires at another level of intellect, and it would be dope to see him in the type of conversation like this as well. Like if it was Destiny and Abba, and then Rollo and Michael Sartain, I think that would actually been incredibly more interesting. You understand what I'm saying? So, but anyway, guys, this was absolutely a win. Guys, write down in the comment box down below if you want me to go through the rest of the conversation. Again, I don't know if it gets any better, any worse, but let me know if you guys think that it was worth it to continue to go through. For right now, I got to head out. Shout out to everybody that came through. Thank you, each and every one of you guys, for continuing to support the platform. The last thing I just wanted to mention, mtarmy.com. Go up there for videos that are being posted. Here you see all of the community stuff, right? The Patreon, the Facebook, the TikTok, the Reddit. All right, we got a Reddit link down there as well. Feel free to join that. Or if you want to join the public Discord server, it's no longer attached to my Patreon, so anybody and everybody can come through, come say what's up, come join the community, come engage in the discussion. There's a lot of fun to be had over there. If you guys want to book one-on-one time for me, whether or not you guys are interested in starting YouTube, I'm a YouTube expert. You understand what I'm saying? If you want to start a channel, book a consult with me. If you want personal life advice, book a consult with me. Shout out to everybody that came through. Shout out to the moderators. All right, Saltstorm, I saw you. Gail, I saw you earlier. I see you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Shout out to all the super chatters continuing to support the platform. And we out. Until next time. Hold up. Let me make this bigger. Until next time. You too. Peace. W's down into the chat as we sign out. All right?